Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, October 17th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. We do begin each of our meetings with an invocation. Feel free to join us if you would like. Today, Steve Schleicher with El Paso County will provide our invocation.
Please join me in prayer. Father, thank you for every seat that has been filled here today. For each mind and heart that fills the presence of this room, we thank you. Only you truly know what we are setting out to accomplish today. We have an idea, a vision, hints, and daily instructions. We have talents, abilities, and time to work. However, only you can see in perfect detail the end of every beginning, every project, every season, every life. Nothing is ever in vain, for even mistakes and missteps are used for good. Your righteousness transcends all our efforts and understanding. Forgive us for our pride, the pride that puffs us up and the pride that threatens to unqualify us. Strengthen our confidence in who you have made us to be. Set us free from comparison to work together efficiently. Bless this meeting today, all those present, as well as those we will encounter afterward. Ready us to make every moment count. In Jesus' name, amen.
Commissioner Geithner, would you please lead us in the pledge? Item number 3.
Item number 3 is staff emergency items, and I'm unaware of any staff emergency items today.
Item number 4.
Item number 4 is changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. I'm unaware of any changes to today's agenda, and our next meeting will be Thursday, October 19th at 9 a.m.
Item number 5.
Item number 5 is the consent calendar, inclusive of items 5A through 5F3.
Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on any item on the consent calendar today? Hearing none in the audience. Any online? Okay. I'll bring it up here for a motion, comments.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar items 5A through items F3.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Any other comments? Okay. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is proclamation recognizing October as Arts Month in El Paso County. Longinos Gonzalez Jr., Commissioner, Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe we do have Angela Seals from Copper here this
Good
morning. And so let me move to approve a proclamation recognizing October as Arts Month in El Paso County. Whereas the month of October has been recognized as National Arts and Humanities Month by thousands of arts and cultural organizations, communities, and states across the country, as well as by the White House and Congress for more than 2 decades, and whereas the arts and humanities embody much of the accumulated wisdom, intellect, and imagination of humankind, and whereas the arts enhance and enrich the lives of every American, playing a unique role in the lives of our families, our communities, and our country. And whereas the focus of Arts Month is to encourage citizens to explore new facets of the arts and humanities in their lives and to initiate lifelong habits of regular participation in the arts. And whereas the arts play a significant role in youth development and enhance critical thinking skills crucial to many technical and scientific learning tracks. And whereas the local impact of the nonprofit arts industry is significant, generating more than $153 million in economic activity and supporting the full-time equivalent of 5,070 jobs. Now, therefore, the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, hereby recognizes October as Arts Month in the Pikes Peak region and calls upon citizens to celebrate and promote the arts and culture in El Paso County, and to specifically encourage the greater participation by those said citizens in taking action for the arts and humanities in their community. Done this 17th day of October 2023 at Colorado Springs, Colorado. The Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, Cami Bremer, Chair, Carrie Geithner, Vice Chair, Lojinos Gonzalez Jr., Stan Vanderwerth, and Holly Williams, members, and attested to by Steve Schleicher, County Clerk and Recorder.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Ms. Seals.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to stand before you. I spoke to you during Arts Month 2021 as Deputy Director of the Cultural Office and became the Executive Director just during this past 8 months. I hope it is just the beginning of a conversation that we'll have long-term as we support the creative sector here in El Paso and Teller counties. I thought I'd take advantage of these few minutes with you this morning to introduce you to the Cultural Office and to Arts Month, and to share some high-level stats about how our arts community is doing right now. For those of you who don't know, and even for those of you who maybe haven't thought about us for a moment, we are the Cultural Office of the Pikes Peak region. We are an independent nonprofit that serves El Paso and Teller counties. We champion the diverse creative community as a vital part of this region's identity and economy. And we do that through service, connection, and advocacy all throughout the year, and especially during Arts Month. El Paso and Teller counties is our service area. Of course, a strong concentration of our creative industries is in the city of Colorado Springs, but we also support the Creative District of Manitou Springs, the creative communities of Teller County, in Monument and Palmer Lake, in Fountain, and throughout the region. Our office is a block away on Tejon Street in Plaza of the Rockies. We encourage you to stop by anytime that you're on a walk and say hello. We have a small staff of 5 people who are leading this work as the local arts agency for this region. We are the officially designated kind of 30,000 foot level support for the arts community. And our programs are focused into 3 arenas of impact. This is a new structure for us this year. When I came in as executive director, we restructured the cultural office to align with our new cultural plan, Arts Vision 2030. So our programs now focus on building cultural promotion and tourism, on igniting our creative economy, and on strengthening creative education here in the region. And that looks like all different kinds of things throughout the year. We move and vibrate with a lot of close regional leadership peers like Visit Colorado Springs, all the local chambers, but also with our arts groups themselves, and face them in capacity building to help them rise to the opportunities of growth that we're all experiencing here in the region. In our service area, we have 2 state-certified creative districts. They're downtown Colorado Springs and Manitou Springs. They're certified by Colorado Creative Industries as particularly vital districts full of creative jobs, creative businesses, and economic impact through the arts. As you see here, we also have over 400 arts and cultural groups. Most people are surprised by these numbers. Simply that there are 28 museums often surprises folks. So I encourage you to be curious and to realize that there's more here than there was 10 years ago, and it keeps growing all the time. Our arts community is really diverse, and they're working in a broad spectrum of arts disciplines: music, theater, spoken word, street art, fine art, arts education, and what we have loved seeing at the Cultural Office since we were founded in 2006 is how this arts community is really growing. Throughout the year, the Cultural Office promotes arts and culture, and you may be familiar with peakradar.com. It's our region's cultural website. It has been supported for many years by the El Paso County Economic Development Program, and we appreciate that ongoing support because it really does generate a lot of economic activity for the region, for tourism. We had over 15,000 clicks on Buy Ticket button last year. We're really using using that site to generate economic and cultural activity across the region. You'll also find cultural guides and directories and travel itineraries that we've done with Colorado Tourism Office. So please do visit Peak Radar throughout the year. But today I'm here because it is Arts Month, which we celebrate every year for National Arts and Humanities Month. This is our 10th celebration of Arts Month. So you've done a couple proclamations over the years, and we appreciate so much how our elected officials come alongside this moment. This is one time a year where we particularly shine a spotlight on what the arts do in our region, that they are here for our entertainment, but they are also so much more than that. And with our new campaign, Open Your World with the Arts, we're really trying to inspire people to get curious and realize there's more here than they think, and to try something new. The arts are essential for our community in a lot of ways. And I'm just going to hit on 4 of them right here at the end. That is that they are very important to economic productivity. Here in the state of Colorado, they generate $16.9 billion of the Colorado economy are just through creative industries and support 102,000 jobs. Next month, we'll be releasing a new Arts and Economic Prosperity study. So the numbers you just heard in that proclamation are from 5 years ago. We're really excited to come out with our new numbers that we've generated through research with Americans for the Arts. We know that the arts community was hit really, really hard by the pandemic. Unemployment in the arts across the country was 5 times higher than other nonprofit fields. But here in the Pikes Peak region, we're seeing a lot of resiliency and a lot coming back, and that's partially because of local support. Our local galleries and local creative businesses are family-owned small businesses, and that's something I just say to remind people that when we talk about the arts, we're not just talking about nonprofits. We are talking about entrepreneurs, small businesses, and folks who are participating in our economy really actively. In the past few years, we've been really aware of how important the arts are to our mental wellness and our social wellness. And they've been very important for children, youth, adults, and elders to heal, find therapy, and to combat loneliness. And they are helping our region to shape a new identity. When we have an opportunity to see each other's heritage and to celebrate that with great respect and vibrancy, we see how El Paso County and Teller County are changing. And those celebrations and those arts practices are critical to understanding who we are in our changing demographics. So thank you so much for having this proclamation for the arts community today. It is a really important spotlight, but it is something that's happening all throughout the year. Happy Arts Month.
Thank you very much. Well, congratulations to you, and to Mr. Vick on his retirement as well still. But we're grateful that you can be at the helm of that organization and doing a great job of integrating into other efforts as well throughout the community. It really adds a lot to our growing and thriving community. With that, are there any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Williams.
Yes, I would just like to thank you for coming here in support of Arts Month, and just wanted to say, yes, I was surprised by the slide, 28 museums and 68 art galleries. It's pretty amazing, and I've been at some events at some of these places, but I thought it was fun to see the Pikes Peak Symphony schedule for this year, especially the Marvel versus the DC Universe concert. That sounded like an interesting one, and I enjoy the arts when I can in our community, but I believe that they are significant, especially for our children's development as they grow up, and our heritage too.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. That's the Colorado Springs Philharmonic, and they do have an incredible season as they audition new conductors. So every major concert you go to has a different conductor this season, which is exciting to see, and energizing audiences a lot. Yeah.
Commissioner Geiger.
Thank you. No, this is always a great opportunity to talk about the value of arts. I think that it's really interesting to explore how it shapes individuals and how important it is, even if you don't end up being a business owner in the arts, or you don't end up choosing that as your career, as you talked about, the fact that, participating in arts and music, all of those things are so essential even to kids' development. It actually really, there's a lot of great studies out there about how it impacts their brains and their creativity, not just in when they're working in the arts, but in problem solving and all the other areas of their life. So I think this is always a great thing to celebrate. As a kid, I participated a lot in music. I played the piano, I played the violin, I played the flute. I participated in a lot of those different activities, and I've talked about it a few times up here, but my degree is actually in creative writing. So you never know where the arts might take you and the influences that they have on your life. So thank you for being here. And this is a great time for everyone to celebrate the arts and just try something new, maybe. I think that we have a board member who has done that in the last few years, and I'm sure he'll talk a little bit about that.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you. And, I used to have the honor of doing the Arts Month proclamation, but now I've been usurped by my fellow commissioner who's actually producing art. So, but that's all a good thing. We can duke it out later for next year. How about that?
I don't take for granted that many of you value this. Thank you.
I think it's great that we have an Arts Month here in Colorado Springs. Thanks for everything that you guys do. And you may know this, but we have actually 250 pieces of curated art that the county maintains. And if you just take a quick glance behind you on the wall, you'll see a few of them done by WPA in the 1930s.
Yes.
A few up on the wall. And there are several others around the hall, but there's actually a lot in a lot of the county buildings. And when I was sitting on the city's Public Art Commission, we actually took a tour of those and showed a lot of people very interested in art what the county actually helps to maintain. So I just think that's really awesome. And also, I was just recently at the Concrete Couch opening and spoke at that event. That's a fascinating and interesting environment because it's kind of instead of this high-end level of art, it's much more gritty and kind of street art kind of stuff. But there's, it's an opportunity for art for people that think in that way. And I think it's just a great expression of what we do, really trying to accommodate all different kinds of art throughout the community. Also, just love the Manitou Art Center. That's a great place. There's a lot of great things going on there. And I appreciate your chart talking about 400 active art groups of various types. And that's really, I think, fascinating. Just how much art we actually really have around here. Mm-hmm. And I would challenge people to find all the Humpty Dumptys in town because there are a few around the community, but it's just one of those interesting things that if you pay a little attention to art here in our community, you'll actually find an enormous amount of it. I think that's really cool. I appreciate also your point about how art produces social connection. That is so important. Mm-hmm. And when we spend too much time on smartphones, social connection is actually really, really important for the mental health of everybody that lives here. And I think I need to ask you to just do one thing for me because you do have a website and you might want to give a plug for the website because I'm looking at it right now and the featured items on there are the Haunted Brewfest. Yeah, which I think is really cool. And the Marshall Tucker Band, which will be at the Pikes Peak Center on October 18. So maybe you could let us all know how would people access the things on your website so they can find some of the art going on in the community.
Thank you. Well, throughout the year, peakradar.com is the home of arts and culture. Artsoctober.com is the home of Arts Month, but it pulls events live from Peak Radar. So you'll find the same events on both sites right now. At artsoctober.com, you'll also find our sweepstakes that we're running this month where you can win a prize of over $800 worth of local art experiences and objects. And so it's a lot of fun to celebrate during October, but throughout the year, peakradar.com is where you'll find that diversity, and you can buy tickets right there.
Awesome. Thank you very much, and thanks for everything that Copper does.
Thank you. And I'll mention El Paso County's public art collection is in the public art directory at peakradar.com. So if you have any questions about the things in the halls around you, you can find them on the site. A lot of people are pleased to find out that they can look up public art at peakradar.com and learn more about what they walk past every day.
Awesome.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I always appreciate this every month, and we already talked about the art the county helps sponsors. The one from just a couple years ago that if anybody leaves, you can just go out to the open door here area, and you can see the Fannie Mae Duncan statue
Yes.
with nonprofit put together, but it's on county grounds here.
Yes.
So a lot of amazing projects and works, and some of the things I think I enjoy going to every year. The Art on the Streets projects, and some that get recycled. I think just down the street we get to see the beautiful one with the deer and the tree. And so I know the city always retains one or two per year ongoing and help beautify our downtown. So amazing works. The first Fridays, I try to get those regularly as well. And the Philharmonic, I like to go several times a year. I did get to the Marvel one, but in DC, but I also went to the Brahms opening one. And
I was there too.
I thought it was funny. So I was watching The Incredibles, the Pixar Disney show, and there's a little scene in there where the young high school babysitter, she's talking about taking care of the baby, and she's like, I do great things, and we're listening to Mozart because leading experts say Mozart makes babies smarter. And so we were touched about how all the music and the work that they do with our youth is something that benefits them, and cognitively teachers, and I was a teacher before I was elected, it benefits everybody. And so I was in band when I was in elementary and middle school and high school. And so the great things that the community does helps our community, helps our families, and helps our downtown areas, all our art areas. But something I've been greatly appreciative of. And since COVID, I've been doing a little painting, and as talked about by Commissioner Vanderwerf, been very involved in things locally. So appreciate this very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing this get approved.
With that, any further comments? All right, I will call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. Congratulations. We'll take a
you.
brief recess for a photo if you'd like.
Thank you. And I look forward to working with you all to support this sector in this important time of growth.
Thank you. We'll be in brief recess. Welcome back to the Tuesday, October 17th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, and we are on item number 7.
Item number 7 is comments by elected officials and commissioner liaison reports. 7A, Clerk and Recorder 2023 Coordinated Election Update, Steve Schleicher, Clerk and Recorder. And 7B, Clerk and Recorder New Elections Ballot Box Camera System, Introduction and Demonstration of New System. Steve Schleicher, Clerk and Recorder.
Mr. Schleicher.
Good morning, Commissioner. Steve Schleicher, El Paso County Clerk and Recorder. Blake, can you pull up the PowerPoint real quick, please, sir? Can you pull up the PowerPoint? Thank you. So, Commissioners, yesterday was a big day. Several of my staff and myself were down at our Fountain United States Postal Service branch, where we unlocked the trucks, verified the keys and everything like that. And right now, 473,865 ballots are being mailed out to all of our eligible, active, registered voters here in El Paso County. I have received numerous text messages, numerous voice messages, numerous emails where folks have signed up for ballot tracks that have been received via text that their ballot is on the way. So, as I shared with you last week, the mail ballot packet contains something new for our voters this elections. So, voters will receive an I voted sticker, which in the past we have not been able to do, and that's going to be on their mail ballot instruction sheet. And as mentioned in past elections, only in-person voters could receive a sticker. If you do not receive your ballot by Thursday, October 26, please contact our elections department at 719-575-VOTE, which is 8683. However, I will sit there and share is if you do not receive your ballot, by the end of the week, please give our office a call and we can let you know the process, where it's at, things like that. In addition, I encourage all of our voters to vote and return their ballot early. We provide 39 secure 24-hour ballot drop box locations throughout El Paso County, and 99% of our county's population lives within a 15-minute drive of one of these locations. In addition to that, every ballot box is under 24/7 camera surveillance that has been upgraded this year, which we'll talk about here in a minute. By visiting www.epcvotes.com, you can navigate to the public viewing page to see the live streams of any of these ballot boxes, and we'll do a demonstration here in a minute. Voters also may return their ballot through the U.S. Postal Service by affixing adequate postage to the return envelope. And as I mentioned last week, I recommend, if you're mailing it back in, to have it mailed by October 30th. No postmarks are counted if it's not received by 7 p.m. on election night. So, make sure if you don't get it in the mail by October 30th, then visit either the office or one of our VSPC locations or the ballot drop box to ensure your voice is heard. Any voter needing a replacement ballot or any in-person services may visit the VSPC at the Citizen Service Center, which we opened yesterday at 1675 West Garden of the Gods Road. Additional VSPC centers will be open October 30th with a total of 10 throughout our community, opening in phases by Election Day. A full list of the locations along with hours of operation can be viewed at that link. In addition, it is also included in your ballot of every location and address of our ballot boxes and our VSPC location. To track the status of your mail ballot, sign up for Ballot Tracks. This is an awesome program that lets you know what is going on with your ballot. And for election information, voters should visit or contact my office, as I mentioned, at 719-575-VOTE, or shoot us an email at elections@elpasoco.com. So I want to talk a little bit about our new ballot box surveillance project and why this was such a priority for me. So, new Secretary of State election rules, as you see there, talking about retention of voting system security records. So now all of our surveillance, the video footage within our counting room, within our signature verification room, within our ballot boxes is now considered part of the election record. Before, we only had to provide surveillance and it wasn't part of the election record. What this means is we have to maintain this footage for a period of 25 months. So this was a major undertaking. As you see here, the county clerk must maintain the following as election records under Colorado Revised Statute: access logs to secure ballot and secure equipment areas. This includes the equipment areas where we store all of our voting equipment at our distribution center, access logs for voting system component access, video footage created under Rule 20.4.2, which is now including ballot box video footage, election project backups required to be made under Rule 11.4.1, and logs generated by the election management system software of the voting system if those logs are not contained in the election project backup. Any other documents created by the county clerk to ensure the physical security of the voting system. So, going into the new ballot box camera highlights. So, commissioners, this is exactly what our new cameras look like. Is we now have the ability to live stream, which has not been available before. We now have a public page for viewing 24/7, no need for wired electrical, which in the past, we had to have electrical to be able to provide this surveillance for every one of our ballot boxes. We no longer have that requirement. There's motion triggered events that are uploaded and saved to cloud storage to meet the statutory requirement. As I shared, the statutory requirement is 25 months. However, with our new cloud, we can keep this information for a period of 10 years. We have constant DVR recording that is available 24/7 to investigate any incidents surrounding triggered events. Battery, communications, temperature, and solar are all monitored and configured to send alerts when performance decreases, allows for preventative maintenance, which drastically reduces the possibility of downtime or lost footage. In the past, we were never notified if a camera lost Wi-Fi, if there was no electrical power, if the camera was down, and it took a lot of staff time each day to go check those 39 cameras to make sure they were functioning during an election. Cloud camera stored footage is always accessible, even when paid service is not active. Keeps the cost of use down to only the month of recording. The new vendor, Sensera, is based out of and manufactures here locally in Golden, Colorado. Local support and a team that received feedback for possible feature updates. The reason why that is important is if we do have a camera that goes down, or a solar panel that, is damaged. All it is a matter of driving an hour and a half north to get a new camera, and we can have that system up during an election within a period of 3 to 4 hours. The other reason why is core requests. Colorado is an open record state, and a lot of times we sit there and get core requests regarding the footage within my office of the counting room, the signature verification room, or even ballot box footage. So for example, we just had a mayoral election and my office received over 10 core requests just for the video footage. However, my office did not coordinate that election. We allowed the city to use those ballot boxes and we allowed the city to go ahead and use the camera footage and they provided the hard drives. However, since we are part of the camera system, we got over 10 core requests. Commissioners, let me share with you how much time and effort went into this on a core request for video footage. It would take several weeks to download that footage onto a terabyte DVR hard drive, which we have a time frame to go ahead and provide that information. It would take my staff to go out there and individually remove those DVRs, shut the system down, which we cannot do during an election. In addition, it takes a lot of county attorney staff time. It takes a lot of my staff time and PIO staff time to do this. And it could cost the requester of the core thousands of dollars to gain this information. So, as of this morning, we have gone live. And here is just, I'm going to go ahead and show you a live demo. There's two different sites that we are going to go ahead and take a look at. We're going to have the public viewing site, then we're going to have the admin site. And Blake, can you pull up the public viewing site, please, sir? So this is what the public is going to see. And right now you're going, well, Steve, all I see here is a blue screen. All 39 cameras here, all you have to do is go to the hamburger, and we're going to sit there and take a look. And this is the Chuck Brown Complex. You just click on the hamburger, hit live. This is City of Manitou Springs, and they're going to go ahead and activate here. This is live stream as we're sitting here talking. Sorry, just taking a little bit of time here. There we go. And so all 39 of our cameras, we have Ellicott, Fort Carson. So now, as you can see there, it's just basically we now have the ability for live stream, and folks can actually sit there and take a look at that. Blake, can you pull up the admin side for me, sir? Now, commissioners, this is the site on the admin side. There are individuals within our community that, want to have permission to this, and we'll go ahead and assign them a password. So commissioners, this is the admin site. So right now we are looking at the Bear Creek Park Community Garden. As you can see here, by coming up to the camera, you could pick any of the 39 cameras that we have. So if we want to sit there and take a look at, let's see, Centennial Hall on Cascade. There we go. But what is new and what is most important, it lets us know, as you see here, the camera status, what is the battery, what is happening here. In addition to that is we now can go back and take a look at triggered events by clicking on the event. We play through it and we see an individual walking past the ballot box right there that actually picked them up. So now, individuals, as we see here, we got somebody that's on a bike that's cruising by and things like that. But commissioners, we now have the ability to do this 24/7. Is we have now allowed for a lot more efficiency, effectiveness, transparency in our election process. But most importantly is we're saving taxpayer money when it comes to quorum requests, where now our citizens can sit there and say, I want this footage. Well, it's already out there, and it's saving them a lot of money. Are there any questions?
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your demonstration of this. It's really interesting to see it, and I'm glad we've got it. Now, I guess on the other side of the coin is, was it expensive?
So, Commissioner, it was. In fact, we were over $180,000. But when you look at 39 ballot box cameras, polls, a number of different things, it was money well spent, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. One more question, not particularly about the demonstration, it sounds like.
Okay.
It is not about the demonstration. Again, thank you for that. I just want to kind of ask you another question, because there have been citizens in our community concerned about, the integrity of voting and so forth. And in our past elections, we've actually made available photographic records of the actual ballots with whatever was on there that can't be in public domain being redacted and that kind of thing. But then anybody could pick up all of the votes from a precinct or all of the votes from a particular election and actually do their own count and compare it to the counts that we have. So my question for you is that going to be offered again for this election cycle?
Commissioner, that is a great question. Absolutely. So folks will be able to sit there and do their own audit when we put the images out onto the Clerk and Recorder's website. And I do know that I mentioned this last week when I presented, is for 2024, the general election, which is going to be, in my opinion, probably a record-breaking election, is we're also going to be putting out a new GIS mapping platform where folks will get updates nightly of the percentages of the ballots cast per precinct. In addition to that is, as you do the layers, you'll have the history of, okay, how did these precincts, House districts, Senate districts, Commissioner districts, how did they vote for this particular item during this election, and have that out there for history. So we're going to be going live with that before the 2024 general election.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions at this time? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Schleicher. Okay, we are on item number 7, comments by elected officials and commissioner liaison reports. Are there any other countywide elected officials online? Okay, we'll start with you, Commissioner Williams.
Yes, good morning. So yesterday we met at Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments special meeting to discuss transportation planning region boundaries. It was a very interesting meeting with CDOT presenting. The Transportation Commission will be starting to evaluate the study that they've done in the past year and the realignment of boundaries here in the next couple of meetings that they have between now and January. This week, I also have, I wanted to state, and I forgot to state it during the arts presentation, I'm very thankful that some of our business owners allow certain displays on their building. Apparently, there is a display going up of Gannon Stauch that's been put together by a group of private citizens, a Facebook group, and I think that that is very I'd like to thank the business. I don't know which business building is allowing that up, but the painting of Gannon Stauch is very a good way to honor that young man. And so today it's pretty much a quiet week. We have the UCCS. I have the UCCS downtown 5-year anniversary celebration this evening, and then on Thursday we have. I don't know if we have our, on Thursday we have our budget hearings. And that's pretty much it for me this week, is just the Board of County Commissioner meetings. So that's all I have to say.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually have somewhat of a busy week. So in addition to the UCCS downtown celebration later this afternoon. Immediately after that, I'll be speaking at the 55th Air Force Wing reunion. They asked me to come and talk about El Paso County, so I'll have an opportunity to do that. And then tomorrow, I'll be going to Denver and participating in the State Board of Health. And for my colleagues that are on the El Paso County Board of Health, our meeting last month did not have any voting activity of any great significance, so I never did actually forward to our local board members what was going on in that meeting. But there is more of interest in this meeting, so I'll be passing that along after the meeting to identify for our local Board of Health how those votes went. And then later on Wednesday, I will come back and participate in the Visit Colorado Springs Tourism Awards at Flying W Ranch. That'll be Wednesday evening. Looking forward to the BOCC budget hearing Thursday morning. And then I have a tour of the Tri-Lakes Cares facility tomorrow, Thursday afternoon. And then I'm hopeful that I'll be able to get to the HBA Chili Fest that evening. And then on Friday morning will be a Fountain Creek Watershed District Board meeting. I'll participate in that. And then also, let's see, I missed one item. It's going to be, I think, kind of a fun. Let's see if I can find the date. Well, actually, I get it. It's Monday of next week. I will actually be teaching a class at UCCS in the poli-sci department. And this will be my first foray into doing something like that. So I'm really looking forward to it. And that's all I have for until our next board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One thing I'll comment on is as ballots come out this week, a reminder to vote. And also, I know there are some legal limitations on things I'm allowed to say as to what's on the ballot, but I am allowed to state that this board, El Paso County Commissioners, has previously voted to officially oppose Proposition HH. Thank you.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. So another busy week. I have yet to figure out how to be in multiple places at once, so I will be trying to juggle some virtual meetings and some in-person things that all happen kind of around the same time, a little bit staggered tomorrow, which is the Library District meeting, a fair advisory meeting, as well as the Lamplighter Dinner, which is put on by Mountain View Electric. So looking forward to being able to participate in those to the greatest extent possible without having figured out yet how to clone myself. There's also a special regional building meeting on Friday. I wanted to mention that in Falcon, this weekend, there will be the Giant Pumpkin Fest that I mentioned previously, but this is where farmers try to grow the largest pumpkin, and there's a big way off. There's a lot of fun. There will be pumpkin ale and pumpkins available for families. There is a carving contest. I know Mr. Schleicher thinks that he is going to win, so we'll see. I believe the sheriff is participating in that as well, and I will be participating as well. So lots of fun to have this weekend. On a more serious note, I appreciate my colleague encouraging folks to vote, and wanted to and thank you for mentioning that we did vote to oppose Proposition HH. I think we may have mentioned it, but I'm going to add that we also participated with Colorado Counties Incorporated, who also came out against Prop HH. There was a great article that recently came out titled "Counties Come Out Swinging Against Proposition HH," which I was glad to see because that's important, but we are also joined by several organizations, including the National Federation of Independent Businesses, Colorado Municipal League, Colorado Special Districts Association, Club 20, Colorado Association of Realtors, and the Pikes Peak Library District. So lots of different organizations out there who are trying to help voters navigate what that measure will actually do here locally. Other than that, my last item is just that I was really grateful to this board for acting very quickly in support of Israel. And I think after watching what has happened over the last week, it was even more impactful to me that that step was taken so quickly here to watch the protests. And I said it in our last meeting, and I'm going to say it again. Representative Hernandez, who is in our Colorado State House, who made some very concerning and disturbing statements. I continue to be frustrated by that. I'm grateful for those who did come out and condemn his statements and his standing with a terrorist organization raping and murdering Israeli citizens. But I am grateful for this board moving forward. When I look around at the over 100 higher education institutions in our nation who have had protests and all kinds of demonstrations in support of Hamas and in support of a terrorist organization. Again, the atrocities that are being committed are just truly unspeakable. And they have free speech, and I defend the right to free speech, but we should all be concerned by what is happening in our higher education institutions. I have 2 teenage sons, and I take very seriously what the next steps are in their lives, and I am very concerned about the kind of institutions that they may be continuing their education at. So I don't have a solution today for that, but I do think it's something we all need to consider. I know there are many donors of higher learning institutions that are pulling their donations for this anti-Semitism. And I think that it's something we all have to pay very close attention to. I said it in our previous meeting, which is when we look back at the most horrific things that have happened across our world in history, we often say, how could that happen? How could people just sit by and let that happen? Well, the answer is what we're seeing today. And if we do not stand against that, we could continue to see folks who are supportive of these types of terrible acts. So I just think it's important for us to all be vigilant and voice our concerns about supporting terrorist activities.
Well said, Commissioner Geithner, and certainly this board did voice our concerns right away last week. Commissioner Vander Werf would like a redo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate your allowing me to just make a few comments, and I'll just express my appreciation to my fellow commissioners expressing their support for Israel. I stand with that Israel as well. I think it's time for Hamas to be removed permanently. I just had enough of it, and what they've done has been horrible and heinous, and it's time. Also on Proposition HH, appreciate my fellow commissioners talking about that. And just as to add to the list of organizations that are opposing HH, Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments has voted to oppose HH, and I wrote the advocacy document to oppose HH for Action 22, and Action 22 is now publicly opposed to Proposition HH. And Action 22, for those that don't know, represents 22 southern counties in the state of Colorado. There's an enormous, enormous groundswell of people opposed to H8 because it looks really nice from the words that they use, but it is a bait and switch, and it is arguably the largest tax increase in the history of Colorado and needs to be voted down. So thank you to my fellow commissioners for bringing that point forward. Thank you.
Commissioner Williams, one very brief redo, please.
I will keep my redo really brief. There is a pro-Israel rally at Acacia Park on Thursday from 4 to 7 p.m. While I was stuck in traffic coming down here this morning, I heard that on the radio. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. I am going to begin my comments with a few events that were significant at the end of last week. I did have the opportunity to attend the Infinity Systems Engineering announcement of keeping and attracting new jobs here. I continue to be impressed with our community's ability to come together and ensure that we're a great business environment where I know in that particular case, we were competing against, four other communities across the nation. And thankfully, they realized that Colorado Springs should be their home, and we are creating a continued encouraging environment for that to continue happening. I also attended last week a presentation called Edge on the Housing Market. It was an hour of chock full of stats and data that really allows us, I think, as policymakers to see where we really are. We do a lot of talk about affordable housing, a lot of talk about the economy, a lot of talk about taxes, and to just see it kind of all laid out and how our community is utilizing that or not was incredibly helpful. And I'm grateful for, I'm sure I will continue to reference those slides that were presented in a very rapid format last week. I too will be attending the UCCS downtown celebration this afternoon. Tomorrow morning, I will join many of my friends and many friends of a dear person in this community to honor Stephanie Finley Fortune at the CSLI breakfast in the morning. She is sorely missed, and I've commented here about that special friendship and mentorship, but so grateful to see community organizations realizing her leadership impacts in this community that are so far-reaching. She will be honored at that breakfast in the morning. And then also Southern Colorado Women's Chamber will be presenting on Proposition HH and a Tabor discussion later this week as well. There are many events this weekend as well. Night at the Library was mentioned. Homeward Pikes Peak is also hosting their Sober Soiree. That's an exciting new event in town. And then I will end my comments with just some thank yous to our Office of Emergency Management and our coroner, Dr. Leon Kelly, and his office staff. As you may know from news last week, he and his office have been busy processing 189 bodies and helping to identify those. And that's hard and gruesome work, and they did it in addition to their normal jobs. And I know that his staff is exhausted, as is he. Our OEM staff really stepped up, and thank you to Sunny over there for helping coordinate to that with our Office of Emergency Management and making sure they had what they needed to deal with a situation nobody's used to dealing with. But he and his staff do that very professionally, and I'm incredibly proud of them for assisting CBI and others in incredibly professional work at what they do. With that, any further comments from countywide elected officials? Okay. Item number 8.
Item number 8 is Community Service Organization Reports. 8A, Exponential Impact Presentation. Vance Brown, Executive Director, Exponential Impact.
Mr. Brown. Thanks for your patience.
Hey, thank you so much. We have a presentation come up, but bottom line, as Stephen Covey says, you should begin with the end in mind. And the one thing I want you to take away is to feel our gratitude at Exponential Impact for our partnership with the county and all that you guys have done. And I feel we owed it to you so that you could see and experience some of the return on investment of your partnership. As we get started, let me just give you a little bit of backdrop. You know, when did we start and why? Well, in 2017, I was leaving from, I was a founder of a company called Sharewell Software, and was trying to get more involved as I became chairman, got out of some of the day-to-day of how do I get involved in the community. I went to a meeting of business executives, and I was actually, this is in 2016, 17, and I was told that, oh, you can't do, if I had a kid and they did commercial software, not DoD, but commercial, I would tell them to run from Colorado Springs and not come here. And I was like, what? I mean, it was just, you know, it was confusing to me. He said, you can't get money here and you can't start a company here. And we'd had, I think it was the largest in the history of Colorado Springs as far as commercial software that was headquartered here in the Springs and founded here, over 750 employees. And I said that. And as far as funding, from one organization called KKR, the largest private equity company in the world, 220 million investment. So I was like, that does not match in terms of my experience. So I said, well, where's your accelerator? And, you know, in terms of commercial, not DoD, you know, Catalyst does a lot of DoD, and there was just really not one. So that was like the gauntlet. And so we started 2017, had our first cohort in 2018. So that was a little bit of the backdrop of how we began and why. You can also see that it was in 17 and 2019, after our first cohort in 18, it was the first time we were recognized in Inc. magazine as one of the best places for startups, because if you do not have an accelerator pushing this and really pushing it nationally in terms of what we're doing and doing some of the PR, a lot of times you're just not recognized. Where's the engine in place to really promote this kind of technology? So in 2019, we were rated 21, and you can see Hannah Parsons, the first executive director of Exponential Impact, was quoted as this being a great place for startups in the community. So it just shows the importance of having, there's no great entrepreneurial commercial community in the country as far as cities without a vibrant accelerator. And in terms of our mission, it's the best entrepreneurs humanly possible. We want to develop that. And notice our focus on the term humanly, because 72% of entrepreneurs have mental and emotional health concerns, and double the rate of suicide. It's hard. It's hard to start something, and the fear of, am I going to be able to make payroll, pay myself, feed my family, all that goes into that. It has a lot of challenges, the below the waterline things that are beyond just, how do you raise money or how do you, produce a product. And so at XI, in terms of that humanly and entrepreneurs, we have now two streams. One is that accelerator that I talked about that we started in 2018 as far as the first cohort. But I'll talk also about how many of you have heard of Survive and Thrive? Okay, most of you, but I will fill you in on what that is. But now you see a second stream of what we do that is now a permanent program, and you can see our new logo has been updated to reflect two flows that came out of that because of the success of the Survive and Thrive program. I'll also say, I know we have at least one engineer up here, but what excites me about, why the infinity symbol? I think there's in terms of a miracle, and how do you get 2 fish, 5 loaves of bread in today's world? Well, entrepreneurship is that. It's a miracle to take 0 to 1. 0 to 1 is infinity. Is that fair to say? Ish, kinda, from a math perspective. So that's why we use the infinity. And also the whole concept of build a business that can survive the test of time. In our accelerator program, this holistic approach that we use, we do have co-working space. It is a mentor-driven model, though. Some of you have helped with some of our companies that are sitting right here. And so the mentoring is key, and the weekly speakers and just having a space where they can all get together, programming from that. And then we have three programs. One we're working on now, which is an online program. In fact, we're working a lot with UCCS on some of this. But this is to provide an online program, what every entrepreneur needs to know. And we're targeting 2 audiences there. One would be university students, that they could get a certification. I hope it's going to be branded not just by XI, but also by UCCS, but a certification of going through a program that's online that way. It's also going to be targeted towards the military. We have so many military coming in, and they may have a little runway in terms of some of the money they've received and maybe some ongoing funding, but they may want to start their own company and be an entrepreneur and stay right here in Colorado Springs. Well, how do you know what you don't know? And so to be able to offer that also, the military is going to be very important. But our current programs are our START program and our SCALE. START is START. It's before you might have a minimum product, but you don't yet have a customer, so it's pre-revenue. And then our SCALE is post-revenue. And so we do multiple programs of this every year, and we have, in fact, one going on right now. They're 3 months at a time. Little bit of, we also just launched this year Southern Colorado Startup Week. If you're going to build a vibrant ecosystem like what Denver does in terms of their Denver Startup Week, where people come from all over the country, to get that branding, that reputation, having not just an accelerator, but stuff like this, a Startup Week is so important. So we had our first one this year. You can see our mayor was out there promoting it, where we had it right there on Tejon. But this is the type of programming that we also do. So our programming here, what do? We teach the art of pitching, culture, relationships, storytelling. How do you tell your story in a business? And then certainly understanding cash flow and business financials. So that is some of the blocking and tackling. But here's a testimonial by Josh Pfeiffer with a company called Barn Owl. In fact, our first executive director, Hannah Parsons, is their now COO. But XI has been instrumental in helping Barn Owl build a network of employees, mentors, and investors, allowing us to raise over $4 million in private funding and grants while scaling our team and our company. Another person that just came through our program, Raphael here with Salt Athletic. In fact, the Switchbacks are a customer of theirs. He said 3 months after participating in the XI program, and he just graduated in the last program, Salt Athletics saw its monthly revenue jump from $16,000 to $114,000 in 3 months. And you ask, how is that even possible? How can someone grow like that? A lot of times it's only like a 2-degree shift, but you get the mentors involved and you get another set of lenses, and just a little shift can make the world of difference. And so this is an example of that. little bit of the metrics and impact. These are real numbers. So we're looking at past, data of the past. This isn't expectations of the future. Of the 61 startups since 2018 that have come through our program, there have been $32 million in investment, over 138 jobs created, and 61 million in revenue, which means that's basically what $1 million on average per organization. And some of these companies didn't have any revenue when they first came in, so it shows you. And the jobs, just so you know, like Barnow, in 2018 they were one of the first cohorts. They only had one employee, maybe part-time too. Now they're like 16 employees. That gives you an example. It's still true that 80% of all new jobs come from entrepreneurship. And it's just so important to have that kind of ecosystem. And then what happened? Well, in 2020, something happened, right? And we were unable to do, our program is very hands-on, and they come into our facility and have co-working space. But in 2020, we couldn't do that. So we thought, well, what would we, encourage entrepreneurs to do, our entrepreneurs to do, and that's to pivot. So we thought, what can we do since we have these staff and resources? And we thought, well, what's needed right now is to support not just high tech, because that's our, emerging technology is really the accelerator program. But what if we stopped and helped just our local community and local small businesses? And so this was in February of 2020, we saw this coming. This is for PPP and any of that kind of federal funding. But small business, as you know, they have a short runway. Some of them are month to month, like restaurants and salons and other small businesses. And so we raised $2.3 million. I'll go over to that. There's access to funding. By the way, there have been 4 programs now, but we'll go to that first one. We raised $2.3 million of 132 companies. By the way, since this is Arts Month, about 10% of those had something to do with the arts. So we're very proud of that in this month. An average loan size of about $18,000. And that doesn't sound maybe like a lot to big companies, but for a small little company that has to pay rent that month and can't, restaurant can't have customers that month, that was huge. And so there was the city did a study and determined that $2.3 million that was invested. And by the way, where did we get that investment? Well, we borrowed it. The Lane Foundation and other business community leaders came together. And so that was really from the private sector. And that had $156 million economic impact to this community. As was stated by Summit Economics, the city did a study and determined that 2.3 to 156, which is over a 6,000% return on investment. So Commissioner Gonzalez, that's what I was talking about as far as ROI. And again, this is, the county gives us sometimes some of the funding to even allow us to staff and have the overhead to do these kinds of things, but you can see the impact of the community of it. We also then, because of the success of that, we did another one after that in 2021, and these were more grants because we needed, some of the companies to get back on their feet. These small businesses needed some grants, and so we did $346,000 of grants to 23 organizations, averaging $15,000. And this is what's cool about this. 91% of these were targeted because the funding that came in, they wanted to target. They wanted a rubric that said, we want to target minorities, women, or veteran-owned. And so we did that. And you can see, the impact of that. So how this has evolved is we're able to change a rubric and then implement how to get those funds out there and then provide the programming around it. And it really is the mentoring and program. People say, how do you get an exponential curve in something non-IT? Moore's Law would say an exponential curve only comes in IT. And I will say, not real sure, but what I believe is the community. The community came together during that period and loved each other and helped each other and locked arm in arm. And that's how it occurred. I think it's that special sauce of that kind of synergy that occurs when people come together. And this is what that community is. When people ask me what I love about the community and what I experienced at Sharewell, it was the community. Who was our first customer, as far as Sharewell? In education, it was UCCS. We then became the #1 service management solution in the world for education. And then who was our first banking institution? It was Int Credit Union. And then we, became one of the national leaders, for financial markets. So that's what I'm saying. If your community is not going to believe in you, who's going to believe in you? And so that's why I'm so passionate about this community and what it does for each other. We had one in 22. Again, you can see also very targeted towards minority women and veteran-owned. And we now have a new fund based on the success called Survive and Thrive, Accelerate COS. And we're trying to raise for this a $5 million revolving loan fund. And so the idea there is companies, and you need to know about a small company, we're talking under 50 employees, under $2 million in revenue, can apply for up to a $50,000 loan or even a $10,000 just startup loan. And that's 0% interest the first year. Okay, so it's really, where can you get that? And you do not have to have the credit. We want to help them build the credit. You do not have to have collateral. This is a type of fund that's just not available in the traditional financial system that we have today. So, and how have we been able to do this? By the way, this program, back from 2020 to what we're doing in 23 has already seen national kind of recognition because of the exponential curve. It may be the first exponential curve that's ever been experienced or at least noted in non-IT, okay? And so the EDA thought it was amazing, the Economic Development Administration under the, I think, Department of Commerce. They are now helping fund the overhead of almost $500,000 in this. But just so you know, what questions do they ask the federal government before they want to put their money in? It's, what are your local organizations doing? So the state, OEDIT, put in almost $1 million to this. El Paso County has helped in terms of some of what we're doing in that, and then the city of Colorado Springs. So when the city, the county, and the state, then the federal takes notice and goes, okay, they're all in, we're going to do this together. Again, everybody coming together is what has made this so successful. Rather than me talk about it, I'd like to give you just one quick video so that you can see what people in the community, the impact it had on their lives. Okay, so just a quick short video so you can experience that.
Take restaurants and salons, etc. They're month to month. They do not have a lot of runway. They
I know
couldn't
I'm really
wait for
probably
the,
saying
let's say,
something
the later,
that I can't read my lips.
Federal programs like PPP, etc. And so we were the first responders to say, let's go and try to find some business people and some foundations that would be willing to give us a loan. And we then in turn
It doesn't work in a moment.
give these entrepreneurs,
move forward. I know.
what's
I'll
called
respect the time. Okay, so one other thing we're seeing, and I guess you can say from Olympic City USA, is a lot more organizations that want to be involved in our accelerator program that are in the fitness, health, and wellness kind of space. Think the Olympic Museum, think Olympic City USA, Switchback Stadium. So we are actually adding an office, not leaving the one we have in Nevada, because right now we're in an incredible ecosystem of security technology with the National Cybersecurity Center, Space ISAC, UCCS's cyber. So we're the entrepreneurs that are working on security technology there. But we're seeing this influx of companies like the one, the Raphael, that went from $11,000 to over $100,000 that is doing something in this area of fitness and health and wellness. And so we're actually adding an office right there in that corner in Switchback's Widener Field. So we're very excited about that. We hope to actually move in March. This is what the space is going to look like. So if you've ever been in, I know you all have, in the stadium, have you ever noticed those garage doors? I remember I was with Nick Reagan, one of the Reagans, he's the president. I was saying, what is behind those garage doors? And he said, dirt. I'm like, gosh, could we do an accelerator there? So that was the start of it. And so imagine the entrepreneurs rubbing shoulders with these professional athletes and how fun that's going to be. another little view of the space, going to be those big, huge monitors in there. So by the way, we're partnering in such a way that the switchbacks will be using it for events in the evening, like, for corporate events, and they can make a lot of money there. Talk about synergy. And then we use it in the daytime for running accelerator programs. So it's a joint use space, which is, again, how you make miracles when you find ways that both can use the same space and make, money from it. So that's it, survive and thrive. Again, begin with the end in mind. We just want to say we're grateful. We believe we've been good stewards of the resources that you've given us. You can see you're not alone, from the EDA to, El Pomar, Lane Foundation, Norwood. Everyone has participated and been involved in this. And so, once again, thank you.
Thank you. And to quickly clarify, I think in the past, Exponential Impact has been a recipient of our community investment funds.
That's correct.
In particular, I mean, your name is so fitting, because when we're evaluating how we spend those funds and what organizations in town receive those, we look for those that are going to have exponential impact within the community or whatever sector they're in. So I think you've done it in name and in deed. And so just wanted to clarify that quickly. And then I also understand that it's our Office of Economic Development's job to help process enterprise zone funds, and much like the previous business I just mentioned in my comments today, they also sit on an enterprise zone. But our economic development staff does a wonderful job of helping businesses, assisting them with any of those applications that would then go through the state to receive tax credits and other things. So we definitely have a great Office of Economic Development, and they are ready to assist all businesses. We appreciate this update today. Are there any other questions for Mr. Brown? Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I want to appreciate this, and I've always seen the great work you've done, and I really appreciate it when you see the numbers, right? And that's why I love the collaboration you have with our Economic Development Department, and when you can see the investment of not just county taxpayers, but the state and the county and the city and the nonprofits that are helping you out. That the private investment that you can demonstrate where that return is, and especially in the aftermath of the 2020, the COVID and situation with so many difficulties for our small businesses, helping them survive was something that was very valuable that your organization did, and also I want to compliment Economic Development for all the hard work they did during the same time that helped our community survive and recover. Thank you.
And just as a follow-up to that, I believe of those 132, over 95% survived, which is higher than the normal survival rate, which again just shows what community can do together.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And Vance, I want to thank you and the team. This is just great, and it fits my values. I am a firm believer in limited government. I'm also a firm believer in when a community has an issue, it's the community that's got to step up and solve it. That is always the best way to solve a problem, because if you've got people that know how to do that, they can bring in those private investors, they can bring in an enormous amount of money, and they can solve problems in the community. That's exactly what you're doing with Exponential Impact. You got some public investment, of course, but you also brought in private investment, and you saw an issue. Like, for example, Survive and Thrive during COVID, you helped companies survive. That was the point of it. But then in addition to that, you're creating, the term you've used, but it's a great term, that this ecosystem of helping people with great ideas using private action to produce outcomes that deliver goods and services for people. And that is fantastic. That's just a great thing to do. And you and I know, because we've talked about it before, there really was a weakness in this arena in 2016 about the kind of getting from the basic startup and then finding a way to get it to grow, because Colorado, it seems like, is really great at tiny, small startups and can support big businesses, but there's a tough space in between those two about scaling up. So this is solving that need. And the connections with UCCS and so forth, you've heard me talk about it many times, about a university-affiliated R&D center, and it's starting to happen on that North Nevada corridor, and you're part of it. And that is going to be exceptionally huge, in my humble opinion, for the whole region here. So thanks again to Exponential Impact and the programs that you've put together and helping people take their ideas and turn it into goods and services for people. So thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams.
Just real quick, I am amazed and impressed at the amount of growth over the past 5 years. I remember when this first started, and thank you. That's due to your leadership and support, I am sure, as well as all of these organizations. So thank you for helping these new businesses. It's wonderful to see that in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Towards the beginning of your presentation, there are a couple things that really struck me that I really appreciate about what you guys are doing, and that is that these are homegrown small businesses. And when you look at the tremendous impact that a lot of people think small businesses and they think, even 30 employees, but what's clear by those numbers is that sometimes these are just a couple of employees. But you can't get big if you don't start small. So that is something that I'm very passionate about, especially those homegrown businesses. And I think that there's a lot of research out there that shows that the impact of those businesses is far more tremendous, quite frankly, than just attracting a business to come in, because it's much more expensive to do that, and it creates all kinds of other side effects. But I really appreciate that. I am curious if you have off the top of your head the proportion of private investment compared to government investment.
Well, the original Survive and Thrive was 100% private. And then because of the success of that, like the city came in with that second round. And in this last one, the $5 million we're trying to raise, and we've raised about 2.7, the city was able to come up with some for the revolving loan fund, and that would be about half of what we have thus far. But then almost every investor in the original one, keep in mind it was a loan, almost all of them have said, first of all, they said, we told them, it was a loan from them, and then we loaned it out. And we told them, you might get 50% back, but how do we know? I mean, this is unprecedented. And it turns out, and I know this is crazy, by the way, on the note to the small businesses, to your point, it says this is non-recourse. We will not sue you if you can't pay it back. But the percent that has paid it back is around 80%. And so a lot of those organizations like the Lane Foundation and others, like Lane Foundation we told our board we're going to get maybe 50% back, so the rest of it, just take it, because that was our expectation. So that's, again, the power of that. So I guess, it looks about half and half, but it will be mostly private by the end of that, when we raise the $5 million. And we have, if you know, Deb Mahon is taking that on. She actually is the development person here for the Anschutz. And they were so excited about it and participating in it, they're allowing her to help us raise money for this fund. So so the 2.7 does not include what they're going to donate. So again, we should be at 5, I'm hoping by the end of the year.
That's tremendous, and I think it says a whole lot about our business owners and the kind of people here. When you put a note on there that says, we're not coming after you if you don't pay this back, and they're still paying it back.
Because, they want to pay it forward because they developed a relationship with the other people in the community during the programs. That makes sense. So they see that I got it, no, somebody else is going to need it. So it's a pay it forward. I believe in humanity, and I believe in this city really represents good humanity.
And we can tell how passionate about how passionate you are about it, and that makes all the difference. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Well said. Any other comments? Thank you very much. We are excited to see what exponential impacts you can continue to have on the community. And Commissioner Geithner's question got right to something that this board looks at again as we're looking at where who we're cheerleading behind, it's not up to us to pick winners and losers, and certainly you have created also an environment where people are supported and the winners rise to the top and they have what they need to succeed, and we love that when that's done privately and outside of the government funding. So excellent job, and thanks again to our economic development staff. I hope that continues to be a wonderful working partnership. We're glad that we can help all of your businesses succeed.
Public-private working together is always better. And so end on thank you. We're very grateful.
Great presentation. Are there any other community service organization reports? None agendized, and hearing none. Item number 9.
Item number 9, public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. This is the public's opportunity to speak on an item that is not scheduled on today's agenda. And Madam Chair, I didn't have anyone sign in prior to the meeting.
Okay. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on any item not on the agenda? Please introduce yourself, and you will have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Denise Kamilic. I've been a resident of Colorado and El Paso County for over 20 years. First and foremost, I do want to thank you for your strong stance in supporting Israel. That means a lot. And sorry, very emotional topic for me. And I also want to thank you for your strong stance against Proposition HH. One of the things and the reasons I want to address you today is simply to bring up, because we are once again in election season, I continue to be amazed by our elected officials' definition of transparency. I'm actually blown away by it. One of the things that really continues to bother me time and time again whenever election season presents itself is the fact that we as people have to accept that our elected officials decide to say that looking at images of ballots is transparency. We see in our society photoshopping, all kinds of things. The things you can do with cameras these days is amazing. Taking out wrinkles and dark spots, lightening, all those things. And so I continue to be amazed that we are not able to look at the actual public paper ballots ourselves. There is nothing on there that is personal, that is confidential, that there should be no bar to us accessing those documents. And yet our officials continue to block us from this. So I really have problems with that. I would love to go in and see how my precinct voted. I don't trust images. Do you? Do you trust images? Boy, I don't understand that. So that's one point I want to make. I'd really like for us to be able to look at the actual paper ballots. I don't see a problem with them being stored for 25 months. Secondly, another thing that I would like to bring up is just the fact that I'm not able to stop a ballot from coming to my home. I went on to GoVoteColorado.com. There's absolutely no way for me to stop. How much money does it cost, Mr. Schleicher, for a ballot to be mailed to my home? I will never, and I repeat, never again vote by mail. I will vote in person because I believe in one-day paper ballots, hand counting. Period, end of story. It's the only way to have true election integrity. But for the county to spend, what, $8, $10 on a ballot mailed to my home that's just going to be thrown away because they're going to produce another one when I show up in person, I believe that should be stopped. I believe we should have the right, and I can't be alone. There's thousands of people. And then the other thing is the 10 ballots being acceptable. It's almost like accepting ballot harvesting. I don't quite understand that stance as well. If there's truly, I understand there are people that are disabled. I understand those types of things. So exceptions do need to be made, but 10 ballots just seems excessive. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any others wishing to speak today? Please introduce yourself and the timer will begin. And again, we ask that you respect the 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Linda Zamora Wilson. I'm a resident of El Paso County. Was not expecting to talk, but Denise brought up some things. And again, I've said it before, but it bears repeating about the costs. Number one, the multiple ballots during the recount of last year. You look off into the other room at the county clerk's office, thousands and thousands of ballots that were returned, and what a waste of money. And getting to the technology, I'm so appreciative that the county clerk is trying his best to have transparency, but it's until we get back to the paper ballots, we don't have the transparency. And we can do countermeasures upon countermeasures, trying to counter fraud, but until it's pointless. It's absolutely pointless with the machines, with the technology. As Denise stated, with the images, you can do a lot of things with just a simple camera these days. There was another point, but I can't remember. But again, paper ballots, single day. And I think we should have a day, a national day where we have voting. And that day is off, people can come and vote. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Please introduce yourself for the record and you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christy Morgan. I was here back in 2000 and I'm still continuing with the same thing, but I wondered if I could play a video for you guys, or just there's no video really, but just the sound of it. It's an interaction that I had with the Colorado Springs police officer. I can't get anybody to listen to me. So this is like my last shot. I've been down to the station and nobody will listen, but it's in regards to the same issue that I was here about before. Yeah.
First of all, without having no information.
He won't take my missing persons report.
To do some form of investigation, I tend to contact this person.
Okay.
Find out, is she really missing?
Okay.
Right? If I can do that investigation and be like, I call the PD, they're like, they can't locate her. All right, where else can we go from there? And I take those steps, and I determine, okay, we don't know who this person is. Let's go ahead and do this missing report. Let's put this on a follow-up, and let's go from there. But there's certain steps that we have to take.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, not really. Because I mean, she could be at Denny's, so you're gonna go check Denny's. I mean, where are you gonna check?
Okay, but now you're splitting cat.
Well, no, I mean,
No.
I'm just wondering where you're gonna check.
Well, we have law enforcement databases, okay?
Okay.
All right. But what you're doing is splitting cat hairs. And if we start splitting cat hairs, we're gonna be.
I'm not splitting anything. I would like to file a missing persons report. I know, who knows? There's a lot of people in this world. I know that she's missing, and I would like to file a report.
You call. We're gonna do our due diligence, and we're gonna go from there. Okay? You have to allow us to do our job.
Okay. So when I call you, is that what you said?
Was that?
What did you say? When I call?
When you call. No.
Or I thought you said when. I didn't hear. I didn't understand what you said.
We have to be able to do our job. We
Okay.
have to be able to do our due diligence.
So how long is it going to take before I can make a report?
I don't know. We have to do our due diligence. You're asking me to give you like a timeline.
Well, yeah.
That's not.
How long do you look before you let me know something, or before I call you, or how long?
But again, all these things are not feasible.
What do you mean they're not feasible? Asking.
Because you're.
Do I wait 6 months?
So what you're asking me, okay, and I'm trying. Help me understand.
No. Yeah.
You're asking me to put a timeline on how long we should do this before we do a missing persons report.
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
That's not how that works.
Well, how does it work?
Okay, again, we're splitting cat hairs here.
Well, no, we're not splitting cat hairs. How does it work?
We have to be able to do our due diligence.
Due diligence?
We have to be able to investigate, attempt to locate this.
Okay.
Right?
Right. And how long do you do that for before, and if you don't find out anything, then I mean, how long is due diligence going to take? I mean, it's just a question.
But that's very difficult for me to say because it could take me all day. It could take me an entire week going through this entire process. So it will be very unfair for me to tell you, yeah, it's going to take me exactly 3 days to do this. No, because I could be on this, right?
For 6 months.
Right.
So,
May I ask you to
for
wrap
6
up your
months,
comments? I'm going to work with the clerk to make sure that that we figure out a way for perhaps that video to somehow make it onto the record otherwise. But if you could finish up your comments here, please.
okay, I just don't understand why they're refusing to take the report. It goes back to the House that I went down there when Commissioner Gonzalez told me to go down there and pay the taxes on it. And I went down there with all the money to pay off the tax lien, and they refused my money and said that they talked to somebody who talked to somebody who talked to somebody else, that she was in a nursing home in Michigan. She's absolutely not in a nursing home in Michigan. And the lien holder ended up with it. And I'm still part of the homeless community now since then. It's been 3 years now. And it's just not fair. I don't know why they don't want to look for, they took his word for it, that they just hearsay. I don't understand how tax liens work when my name was on the house and I was down there to pay the bill. With all of the money, and you talked to him, Commissioner Gonzalez, and I went down there and he refused it. You waited until the 11th hour, he said, and it bothers me because she's not in a nursing home in Michigan, absolutely not. And I don't understand why everybody is just blowing it off, you know?
Okay. Thank you very much, and we will have staff follow up with you on this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Kirk. Assistant County Administrator will assist you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak today in public comment? Okay, anyone online? Hearing none. Item number 10.
Item number 10 is the called up consent calendar, and there are no items called up.
Item 11.
Item number 11 is department and committee reports and non-action items, and there are none.
Item 12.
Item number 12 is the addendum, and there is no addendum today.
Item 13.
Item number 13 is the executive session, and there is no request for an executive session.
We are adjourned. And I think we will take a brief recess and be back in at 10:45 to begin that work session. Good morning still. I would like to call to order this Board of County Commissioners work session as agendized. Item number 1.
Item number 1, proposed use of the property located on Peaceful Meadow Street, legally described as Tract B, Morning Sun 1 by Widefield School District 3, Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity, and Careers in Construction, Colorado. Dave Gish, Chief Operations Officer, Widefield School District 3.
Thank you. And before we move on to Mr. Dish, we have our county attorney is going to kind of give us some background here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought just a quick bit of factual background might kind of set the stage for the presentations today. By way of history, pursuant to Colorado statute, back when this area that's at issue, including the particular property, the Tract B, Morning Sun 1, was developed, that property was dedicated to the county to be used for future school purposes. When that area developed, that was in approximately 1986 based on assessor's records. Subsequently, in 2007, the county deeded the property to the Widefield School District with a clause, and I'll just rattle that off really quickly. The clause states that said property shall revert to El Paso County if the property is no longer used for school purposes. That reversionary interest is actually the county piece of the puzzle here for what I believe is being proposed to you today. My understanding of the proposal would involve developing the property as affordable housing with at least a portion of that housing for school staff. The reason that all that background is helpful is that any version of that property being developed in that fashion would not be a, quote, school purpose under our reversionary clause, which would mean that we would have to extinguish that reversionary clause. So I believe that that's kind of the ultimate outcome that's being sought by the partnership that's presenting to you today.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dave Gish. I'm Chief Operations Officer at Widefield School District 3. Next to me is our Superintendent, Mr. Kevin Duran. We do have a quick PowerPoint. However, Mr. Duran is also in charge of meetings as well, and his starts at 11:30. So do any of the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Duran before we get started for any clarification, just in case we end up running long?
Do we have any questions at this point? Okay. Excellent.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So on the PowerPoint here, as you can see, the big thing that we're looking at within Widefield District 3 and within our community here in Colorado Springs is affordable housing. And that's obviously a challenge for all of us and trying to find ways to get that taken care of and to find some solutions. Widefield District 3 partnered with Habitat for Humanity and Careers in Construction because we have a need for where our homes go from our students at our mill and other careers in construction in Colorado homes that are built, and we need to have a place for those to go because they have to stay in El Paso County. And working together with that, we have to try to help with the purpose of El Paso County to provide essential public services to the Pikes Peak region in support of our residents, businesses, communities, and enhancing the freedom for all to thrive. So you probably, I don't know that we're going to show you any data that you haven't seen through all the things that you guys go through. However, in this one, we just want to point out that back in 2019, if somebody made the median income, they would be able to afford about just over 70% of the homes within our area within Colorado Springs. Whereas now, if you make the median income at about $72,000, you're only going to be able to afford about 25% of those homes. And that makes it much more difficult for any of our first responders and most definitely our educators that to be able to become homeowners with those types of salaries. Next slide, first 4 or so you probably have seen as well. But the big thing to think about is our educators. And when we say educators, we don't just mean teachers. We also are talking about bus drivers, kitchen workers, custodians. We have people that all help kids. And so we've had internships with all of them. So we consider anybody that's working in our school district an educator. And so we also have multiple educators that end up working second jobs to be able to help make ends meet because of what their salaries are within our school district. And so entry-level salary for educators in Colorado Springs is just about $43,000. And in Widefield, our starting salary for teachers right now is $46,000. And so within that, if you start looking at taxes and other things that are coming about between those two, it's right around the $2,800 to $3,000 mark that our employees are going home with. And so when you start throwing in rent or even the possibility of a mortgage for some home ownership, when a large chunk of that is going to their mortgage, it makes it very difficult for them to be able to do anything else besides groceries and insurance and their cars and the price of gas right now. And even though it is starting to come down, it's just, as we all know, life is pretty expensive right now for everybody. So what we're proposing is for our current and future employees to have some affordable housing within our individual school district, trying to help out with that problem of affordable housing within Colorado Springs. From personal experience, Mr. Dern can share his as well. I started teaching in 1996. My wife and I were both educators. My first salary was $22,500, and our first home was $130,000. I'm still in that same home in my 28th year as an educator, but when my starting salary was $22,500 and now the starting salary for teachers is $46,000, my home is more than triple what it was when we bought that house back in 1997. And I'm sure many of you have gone through the same thing with the price of houses moving up. I was fortunate that I was in a 2-income family. Mr. Dern had a 1-income family. You want to tell yours real quick?
Yeah, my journey back to Whitefield was, I started as a student in Whitefield School District 3, went to Denver as my first teaching job, was priced out of the market, and came back to Colorado Springs in Whitefield to teach and to be able to afford a home. At that point, I was making $22,000 a year. The house that I purchased was $79,000. And I was still able to afford that on my salary. I checked just recently, the price of that house is now $364,000. So that's a 4.5 times the amount that it cost. My story cannot be done now. There cannot be a teacher that comes to our district straight out of college and is able to buy a home more, or even have a reasonable rent in our area. Whitefield and Security, as well as Fountain, used to be one of the most affordable areas within the El Paso County region. And now we have been, obviously the increase of price has made an advantage for those who own homes, but for those who are just starting off their careers, it is it's a factor that allows them to actually look other areas for them to start their career. We try to attract other folks from other parts of the nation, and it used to be that we could attract folks from different states in our area. At this point, we are one of the highest areas for people to come to as far as the cost of living. So it's been an impact for us to sustain and retain and maintain our staffing pool.
I do have a question. Does that mean you're not getting a lot of right out of school teachers? Are they going to small towns like Pueblo or Rye or some of the smaller towns?
What ends up happening is when we do have new teachers, we have to pair them, or they have to pair themselves with a roommate, and our human resource directors do a great job of trying to find ways to combine enough new teachers to find a place for them to live, or they already live in the area and they're living with their parents. There are opportunities that we have tried to, make that happen for them. Typically what happens if they're an out-of-state person is that they find that the sustainability of living in Colorado Springs in the El Paso County region is not reasonable for them to stay for more than a couple of years. And so we do lose and have a higher turnover rate due to the increasing market that we're in.
So again, on your sheet, all things that you probably already know as well, but depending upon what metric we're looking at, Colorado is one of the lowest funded states in the nation, depending upon the metric, between 39th and 47th. We've got the link at the bottom for you for what that came from. And then Whitefield District 3 itself is one of the lowest funded districts in the state, being 174th out of 178. The teacher shortage has been widespread throughout the United States, and Colorado and Whitefield is no different. With the pandemic on top of that and the cost of housing, it just makes things worse. And so our turnover has increased. We're up to about 20 to 22% of a turnover now with our teachers each year for some of the reasons that Mr. Dern had said. There's always various reasons for why people end up leaving. But that's something that we're looking at and facing right now. Before the pandemic, we had years of 14 to 18, and now it's jumped up into the 20s, and that's pretty consistent for us for stability. And when we talk about stability for classrooms, that's really important. When we don't have teachers and it's not consistent teachers that are staying in buildings, not only does it take more time to train them, it takes more resources to train them, it also doesn't help kids as well, as those teachers are learning how things work within the classroom for that stability as well. So this slide, just real quick, it's about $20,000. We were able to have a meeting with Commissioner Geithner and Brunner, and one of the things was what is the cost? Let's take a look at that. And let's analyze what that is. And it's about $20,000 or so. I mean, when you start thinking about travel and what it costs for HR and time and getting people in, and all the teacher fairs now are bumping up their costs as well for what it costs to get people in, just because there's such a demand for teachers. What we're looking at is having a project on one of our school sites. We have another one that's a quarter acre larger, that's just about 700 yards away from it. We have 2 school sites that are about elementary size in the same area. And what we're looking at is, if it's cost about $20,000 per teacher, we have a minimum of 14 homes. It could go all the way to where we have all 41 that are Whitefield employees. The minimum is at the 14, and that's what needs to be maintained. But because our district members will get an extra point on the rubric, which is what Chris from Habitat for Humanity will explain a little bit more, then we could actually have several of our staff that are going to be in this community. We don't know how many are going to take advantage of this, but we want to have that opportunity, and it also helps us set Whitefield District 3 apart from some of the others. The bottom is just the number of teachers that were coming from out of state, and so you can see in the 2020-21 school year, we were in the 60s that were people that were coming in, and now we're down to 22. We did bump up to about 39. We just had a meeting yesterday, and we have teachers that have come in from about 37 or 39 different states to Whitefield District 3 that are participating, from California all the way over to the Northeast, Connecticut and Maine. So we've got people that come from all over, and obviously so. We live in a beautiful area, and a lot of people want to come to our area, but it needs to be some place that they can sustain their living as well. And so each year, District 3 averages between 120 and 150. I think last year we were at 162 new licensed staff. That includes teachers and special service providers that they come into our district. That does not include the number of bus drivers and educational assistants or lunch workers, anybody that's in the non-licensed realm as well. So with the last part that I would say, for 13 years, I was a building administrator. 7 years, I was an assistant principal and athletic director. And then for the next 6, I got to be a principal. And not that I've ever been in your shoes of being a commissioner. However, we're all leaders and we all have to try to take care of things. And I can tell you, it was a whole lot nicer for me, because we got complaints all the time. And I would get complaints nonstop from different things that we're trying to take care of. But when somebody came with a solution, it sure made things a lot easier for me. And that's what we're trying to do for you guys today, is to provide a solution to try to help out with some affordable housing. And noticeably, it helps out our kids, it helps out our school district, and Habitat for Humanity is there to help make sure that it stays affordable. So thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Do we have any questions for us?
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So I appreciate your presenting in front of us today. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for the time you've taken to come see us. I just have to tell you, I'm kind of generally in support of the idea. I do have some questions. The first one is, what's the kind of the thinking behind what these teachers or other people may have as an opportunity presented to them? Is it an opportunity for them to own that affordable housing, the tiny home or whatever it is? So it would be ownership as opposed to, say, the school owning the property and then renting it. Is that correct? It's
You're correct.
ownership.
It would be home ownership for anybody that would participate within the Habitat program.
I think that's great, because one of the best ways for anybody, regardless of their salary, to build a better future for themselves is to be able to own something. Also, when you own it, you take care of it. And that's, I think, a really important component to this. I'd say another, there may be other considerations. I'll be interested in hearing what my fellow commissioners say and so forth. But, and I don't know what it would take to do this, but, I just would like to have a conversation about what it would take to vacate the reversionary clause, thus allowing kind of freedom of movement of the property to go forward. And the idea behind that is there's a sense in my mind of, even though there's been a lot of past consideration about the property and so forth, in some regards, I kind of sense that that's a public encumbrance for allowing a property to be put back into useful circulation to help people and citizens and whatever you have it. And I just really like the idea. I know there's a lot of engagement with Habitat for Humanity, careers in construction, and so forth and so on. And what this means is there's community, private action interested in helping to create something out of this. And I really like that concept. So I'd be interested in a conversation, today, what would be the steps about vacating the reversionary clause so that it could go forward. I think I'm a little less worried about whether all of the properties end up being for school use, even though that's what the reversionary clause, I think, refers to. But if it can be, encouraged or whatever for that purpose, but also for anybody else that's engaged in a public service that's on a limited income. I think you kind of hinted at that, firefighters or something like that.
Correct.
That's kind of a interesting, process, and I'm, kind of like that idea as well. So that's some of my questions about what would it take to vacate the reversionary clause, and then I'd be interested in what my fellow commissioners would say.
And if I may, Commissioner Vanderwerf, let's come back to that after we've seen the full presentation. I think we have some other pieces of this that may answer some of those questions.
Great.
And then Commissioner Geithner, did you have a comment on this section?
I do. I will just say, and looking at what these other pieces are, some of these questions may be answered, but I really appreciate that number. One of the things that I asked for was to quantify the value to the district, so I appreciate you trying to answer that. One of the things, as we discuss this, I am also very in support of innovation and trying to find ways to solve community problems. One of my continued questions and concerns around this particular item is that this is essentially a state-mandated impact fee. And this state-mandated impact fee happens when a development comes to be, and it says you are impacting the community by creating more families, more children to go to school. And so developer, you must then offset that impact by providing that land. And we know that there's also fee in lieu of, we know that there are other ways to deal with that. But that is what one thing that continues to make me want to make sure that we are stewarding that, essentially an impact fee. It's not called that, but that is essentially what it is in state law. We are stewarding that on behalf of the taxpayers. We have, again, made a developer hand over a piece of property, and we said it's for educational purposes. So if we are to go back and now say it is not for educational purposes, that is a concern to me about what we are doing, what kind of precedents that we set. There are a lot of these. I've talked to a lot of people. I know D49 talked about this a few years ago. I sat on the DAC over there. There were conversations about how these how these pieces of property could be used because they just very often are not able to be used for a school. It's just not feasible. It's not in the right spot, whatever the reasons are. But again, I go back to this land could either be used for an educational purpose, and there are potentially some other things potentially could be sold. And I'm repeating some of this. I know you guys have heard, and I know that Commissioner Bremer has heard, but some of my other colleagues have not all been in the same meetings. But I have a charter school where we actually did a lease and then a purchase of a set-aside property in another school district that we built a charter school on. And I believe that purchase price was right around $1 million. So there is a way that other districts have also used these properties in order to benefit education specifically. Though affordable housing is a concern, I am a little hesitant, and this is why I keep trying to tie it back to the value to the district educationally, because I am personally so concerned about essentially what we are doing, which is taking an impact fee that is supposed to benefit education, and if it doesn't benefit education, is that a fair thing to do to property owners? So that is a little bit of what I am wrestling with in this. My understanding is that if we were to take back the property, it could be used for educational purposes, but also as a park. This board has, when we've talked about Prop 123 and other things where we have the government giving away parkland for affordable housing, that has not been something we have traditionally been supportive of. And so again, I go back to what this land and kind of the history of it. It's not that affordable housing in our community, what Habitat for Humanity does is not an important role, but it is very important to me to look at the legal way that we are doing this, because I believe this will open the floodgates of other school districts looking to potentially do this. They're going to be looking for ways to use that land, and that could be a very good thing. But I think we need to be clear of, are we comfortable with that? Are we comfortable with continuing to ask developers to give up tracts of land to be used for affordable housing? Because that is what we are essentially doing in this case.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for these presenters or comments?
Thank you, Madam
Gonzalez.
Chair. And I know we're getting more information. The early concerns for me were, as kind of just brought up, was it's supposed to be primarily for the education benefit of the district or for education. And so that's my initial concern was, well, when I see 14, so it's less than half. So when I see it's supposed to be primarily used for education, I'm like, well, at least can we get it to at least half of the homes for the use of education or education associated with laborers, workers? So that was my initial concerns. Is this should be primarily for education. I think that means at least 50%. So
I think that 14 number was just arbitrarily brought out as in terms of we have to have a minimum. But that minimum is never our intent. If we could fill all 41 with our staff members, that's the goal. We don't want to leave Habitat for Humanity or any other financial partners in a situation where it's not sustainable, where they have empty houses sitting there waiting for opportunities that necessarily aren't there for the requirements of our staff members.
We're kind of looking at this as a pilot program. We don't know a whole lot of things with that yet. And that's why we'd like to try that opportunity to see, can we fill most of those homes with District 3 employees? Then that's a benefit of stability of having that many more people that are going to be living in the community and staying within our school district, which is how that benefits kids. But otherwise, we don't know how many people are going to want to go into that. So that's why the 14 started, but that's just a minimum. It certainly could go much higher than that.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. As a follow-up, and this came up previously before about being a pilot program, perhaps there's more to come in some of this, but if we're looking at this as a pilot program to say, hey, is this a model that can be successful? I still would love to hear, what does success look like? How would this board, if we said, hey, there's a lot of unknowns right now, but that's sometimes what you need when you're innovating. And so we would look at this as a pilot program. How would we know that this was successful? What would success look like from the district? Is it 14? Is it half? There was also a comment made in a previous meeting that, and I welcome some clarity on this, that Habitat for Humanity offered this to D11 and that there were very few people who wanted to participate. So that, again, is a little bit concerning to me. That was what was stated in a meeting recently. So I would love to have some clarity. We talked about some other potential projects around the state. I know we received one article specifically talked about in Austin. So it sounds like that there has at least been some level of this tried. Can you help me understand, would you be looking to sell this land to Habitat? What does that actually look like? Because as you talk about, we would love to see everyone, we know they get an extra point or two on the framework, but how would we guarantee that that no one would be turned down from the school, I guess, as a first priority?
And that's probably going to be best answered by Chris when she does with her presentation. But that's our understanding, is with that extra point on the rubric that sends District 3 employees higher up on the rubric so that they would have priority over others within that particular area. We would sell the land in order for this to happen. We would sell the land to Habitat so that they could develop it.
Commissioner Williams.
I just wanted to say I have other questions, but I understand there must be other presenters because I missed the previous meeting where we had talked about this informally. And so I have other questions. So I'm just holding on until we hear all the presentations.
Maybe is it time for Chris? She can go ahead and get started and we can come up and ask more.
I think at this point, we would love to hear the rest of the presentation.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
So while we're bringing up the next PowerPoint, I'd also like to, I'm Chris Lewis. I'm the Executive Director, CEO of Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity. Also joining me is Joe Desjardins, our Board Vice President, and Bobby Ingalls, who is Chairperson of our Site Selection and Land Development Committee. And they will be available to answer lots of questions as well. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details about what is Pikes Peak Habitat in our model, because most of you have been out on our construction site numerous times, or you have served a habitat across the country. But just know that we've been here since 1986. We've served over 200 families. We are looking forward to serving at least 41 more on this parcel in collaboration through School District 3 and Careers in Construction Colorado. One of the things that really excited us about this collaborative model that we came up with is it fits very nicely into El Paso County's master plan, in that if you approve removing the restriction in the way it is stated, it's validating a significant milestone in El Paso County's commitment to affordable housing and would be a sound investment in the future success of Widefield School District 3, Careers in Construction Colorado, and Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity. The entire El Paso County community benefits, not only by being able to recruit and retain qualified homeowners that are teachers, educators at all levels, but stabilizing families in School District 3 so those kiddos don't have to hop from school to school. And I'll get into stats about what it means for Habitat homeowners and their children's success in education. This being a pilot program, there are 12 superintendents in the Pikes Peak Area Superintendents Association that is watching this very closely to see how they can potentially launch this own pilot program. We have spoken in years past with School District 11, 2, and 49. 11 had a change in superintendents and they were not able to move forward at that time. The current superintendent is interested in looking at land and working with us, but the priorities have been set for some other things. So he is also watching this pilot program to see how it might be implemented. 49 is very excited about it. That superintendent is also on our board of directors, and he sits on the Pikes Peak Area Superintendents Association. So we get direct questions from those superintendents. And what does this look like? How can it be successful? How can school districts help it to be successful? So there's a number of ways that this will impact the county in a very positive way. In addition, with the alignment with the master plan, which emphasizes, as you know, prioritizing, approving, and advancing projects that create a mix of housing types, promote affordability, offer job skills, training, and encourage development of infill parcels. By having careers in construction students out on the site, as well as placing the homes that they have built, those kids are encouraged to say, look at what I built and look at the families' lives I have changed. It's not about the number of homes, it's about the number of lives that are transformed through these products, both for the school district and the community. The program also directly addresses the pressing need to support innovative collaborations as requested in the El Paso County Master Plan. It bolsters workforce development, not only through careers in construction, but being able to recruit new peoples into the area, where all of our chambers of commerce, the EDC, the Southern Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce, Black Chamber of Commerce, and Hispanic, are bringing in a number of new entities, but they have no place to house their staff. Now, many of these entities are higher income. They can afford the higher median price, even with the 7% mortgage interest rate. But teachers, educators, your workforce housing cannot afford what's currently in the market. And this will help enable 41 families, in particular school district employees, to have the opportunity for home ownership. I know that each and every one of you recognize how crucial it is that our community includes housing that's attainable for not only educators, but again, first responders, our incredibly strong tourist industry, those who are drawing our blood at hospitals, our CNAs. They don't have a place to live without excessive roommates, overcrowding. This offers opportunities to strengthen School District 3's community across many, many levels. When you have a stronger community through education, through stabilized families, then you have property taxes that are being paid that support the school systems, as well as other public policies in the area, libraries being one. With us, we are looking at some statistics that commissioners have requested. And I want to point out that 81% of Habitat families, including Pikes Peak, which is the majority that makes up this statewide Habitat for Humanity family survey, 81% are more financially secure, 75% could afford health care more easily. Across all public assistance programs, our homeowners reduced their usage of that by 52%. Compared to before they became a Habitat homeowner. And in 2022, Pikes Peak Habitat homeowners paid nearly $150,000 in property taxes. Now, add on another 41 units, that's that much more in property taxes going towards education, supporting our schools. We have a 95% success rate. Of over the 200 families that we have served since 1986, the 5% that were not successful were primarily because of health issues, leaving for a job, loss of a job, or family health crisis. We do everything we can to make it a very successful program. Educators across the board will receive the same education opportunities in our program to be successful, which includes estate planning. How do they pass on this home ownership opportunity to their heirs? How do they maintain it? There's a variety of things. So we will strengthen the educators and the other community members who buy a home. We do phenomenal work. We do it best when we're collaborating with the community, and that includes at all levels. When you're looking at, the commissioner had talked about what is the direct impact and the measurables. It's a pilot program, and we can't provide measurables at this point. What I can tell you, what we measure from every time a new homeowner joins our family, our community, both locally and all the way through nationally, we track not only the number of homes built or the number of homes repaired, it's the number of lives transformed and in what way. So we will continue with those same measurements, but we also have the opportunity for the school district to create its own measurables, whether through exit interviews as staff leave because they cannot find affordable housing, looking at student test scores if that's available. We can do this through Habitat. We look at how well the students are doing now that they're in permanent housing and they're not being moved, whether it's from school to school, district to district, as their parents are madly chasing affordable rents. We get our own statistics on that. We can start that with the 41, and depending on the percentage of population that buys in, we'll have measurables there. There's a variety of things that we can look at, and we will continue to collaborate with other entities across the U.S. who have started their own collaborations with their school districts. Now, there are similar projects, but Vail Valley School District, which is in Eagle County, they were the first in the United States to launch this program. It's a very new program. They don't even have their own benchmarks because not all of the homes have been built out. So their first 8 have been built and sold. Their teachers are stabilizing. They're not leaving the area. And the superintendent is not having to send out as many letters as he did to say, I need somebody to provide a couch or a bedroom so I can hire a math teacher. That says a lot. They are now building 12 homes. They're supposed to complete all those 12 in June, and then they're in discussion already with the next set of lots with that school district. Austin, Texas has just started their program, so they don't have a lot of measurements. They're looking at 30 lots over 2 developments. We're looking at up to 41 lots with currently, in our current agreement, 14 lots, which is about 34% of the 41 lots. Now, the reason why we're sticking to 25% is because nationally, if we go over 50%, then it's considered discriminatory practice, especially if we go to 100%. That violates a number of federal laws. It's almost like redlining, and so we can't do that. But we can look at no more than 50%, with the hope that all 41 lots will go to qualifying school district employees. It's not to say they're going to be turned away. They still have to qualify under our program. Now, a number of you have already heard me speak to you before about what are the qualifications. I can go into that if you'd like during the Q&A period. What we're asking is that you consider that at least this 34%, if not up to 50% of these lots be set aside for School District 3 employees, recognizing that the other 75 to 50% is still stabilizing families in that school district where they are coming together, their kids are staying in their schools, the parents are no longer working 3 jobs, they're home with their kids, they're able to participate in civic engagement, to go to PTA, to go to parent-teacher conference meetings if they so choose. But right now they can't. They're working 2 and 3 jobs, particularly if they're single parents. When it comes to our own educators, it's hard to sit there late at night grading papers when you're having to put in another 1 to 2 jobs to make your own bills meet. So it's enhancing our education in that way too. Teachers are not as exhausted when they're in a classroom and excited to be there because they have an affordable mortgage and they can buy into the neighborhood and into the school district where they want to serve. Please keep in mind also that there are a number of entities, including, I know that the mayor is mayor of Colorado Springs, but he is also mayor of a huge part of the population in El Paso County. He's very much in favor of the project. I'm part of the mayor's solution team on affordable housing. He's happy to come and speak to you if that would help at all, if you have other questions. But we have a lot of advocates, from current homeowners to future homeowners to educators to school districts to statewide initiatives and national initiatives that say this makes sense, but it's a pilot. We need to see how successful it can be. 41 lots for educators is going to be the largest project that's to date. So we'll set benchmarks, but some of it's going to have to come as we go along. Now, when we talked about the value of the land, my understanding is with an earlier meeting, and the county attorney can correct me, the way it's set up right now with this land, it cannot be sold for more than what the value of the land was at the time it was originally donated, which is approximately $114,000 or $117,000. If we were to go out on market and we could sell it for $1 million, that could be $1 million that goes back to a school district, and they can use that to upgrade a building or hire 1 teacher for the next 30 years. No benefits, no raise, but at least you get 1 teacher. We are all excellent stewards of the assets that we were given. We do the best that we can. With Pikes Peak Habitat, $1 million builds at least 3 homes. Our homes cost us a little over $300,000 to build right now. Pre-pandemic, it was $150,000. Right now, it's $300,000 to $330,000, and we build with volunteers. If you sell on the open market to a for-profit, and we're not for-profit, but to a for-profit developer, they must get some type of profit back on the home. Most of their margins are 8 to 13% if they can get it. Now, it was a little crazier post-pandemic. They were able to make more money than that. But they're still needing to pay their staff, reinvest in their organization, and keep going. Those homes are going to sell at least for $450,000. That's not affordable to our current teachers' wages or any other school district employees that are not certified. And honestly, for most of your workforce housing. When you're looking at the cost of teacher turnover at $20,000 per teacher, that's a ton of money that's going out just on 41 lots. Even if we do 21 lots or 20 lots, $20,000 per year not going out for those who have a 30-year mortgage. You're saving money for the school district to hire, potentially give raises, and to reinvest in a different manner with their school system. Across the country, as David mentioned, housing is a crisis not only for educators, but it's in crisis for all workforce housing families. This way, we can manage bringing in district employees and the families that desperately need these teachers to strengthen them, to sustain them, to get them to stay within their community and to reinvest. And they bring up their kids in a way that they get to know their teachers, their friends, and they build community just within that. I'm happy to answer additional questions. I will also bring up Joe Desjardins and Bobby Ingalls, who are board members and committee members, to answer more technical questions. Mr. Desjardins also has a lot layout to show you how the 41 homes could be laid out, potential costs of this project, and what that looks like. So what we're asking is that whether the land is donated to us or we pay the $114,000 or $117,000, that money makes a huge difference in the lives of 41 people in stabilizing them for multiple generations, not just 1 year of hiring maybe, let's see, 40-some thousand into $1 million. It's going to stabilize people and stabilize the school district and strengthen it.
Thank you. Any questions for, is that the end of your presentation, or is your board member going to present on that
Just
piece
in
too?
case you have questions, I'm bringing them up.
All right. Are there any questions of Habitat?
Madam Chair, may I interject?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Just one clarification. I know there was some discussion about the purchase price not exceeding the fair market value of the land at the time the subdivider dedicated the land to the county. That's actually for exercise of a developer's right of first refusal for the property. So I believe that this property could be sold for up to whatever current market value is.
And that's because the current developer who owned it is deceased and the company no longer exists, correct?
Actually, that right of first refusal expires after 20 years from the
And we're
time
right
that it was
there.
dedicated. So it would have been around 2005 or 6.
Okay. But the more we have to pay out, the less homes we can build. Just putting that out there.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. And to clarify, that was one of the reasons why I'd asked for, something quantifiable in terms of the value to the district. Certainly that board has a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers, and if it's an asset that is owned by the district, obviously, as we all do, when we look at those things, it should benefit the district, in my opinion. And so that's why those numbers, I had asked very specifically. I have no idea what the fair market value was. I did ask if there was anyone who would want to take a stab, maybe a realtor or somebody could have done that, and I don't know if they'll have that number to present. But for context, that's why I shared the 7-acre parcel that I know was one of these set-asides in D49, $1 million, and that was at least 5 years ago. So that's why I was looking for those numbers and asked for those.
So, Commissioner Geithner, do you feel like, did you get the answers to that thus far, or are you asking for further?
No, I think they attempted to do that with the turnover number on those. I continue to be a little, there's only a guaranteed 14. We talk about the possibility of 41. I think that is, again, one of those things that there's a big gap there, potentially 14. If we got to 41, that would be hugely different. So there's a lot of gap between 280,000 value and 820,000 value. And I know this is not all quantifiable, certainly. But that's, when to make the case, that's why I asked for those numbers. I think that has been presented to me. I would still like the information on if there has been any kind of analysis done on the value, because again, I don't have a good assessment of that, but otherwise I think the other part has been answered.
I did a little bit of work with that. We did not pay for any type of an appraisal just because then it's extra money that we didn't want to spend taxpayer dollars. So what I looked at was 2 recent properties that were on the west side of Mark Shuffle. One was just south of our mill. They went for $1.73 per square foot. And another one on the east side of our transportation center went for $4.29 a square foot. Pretty big range. So on that particular property, if it went for on the low end, it was around $680,000 something dollars. On the upper end, it was $1.6 million or so dollars if it went for closer to that $4.29 a square foot.
Commissioner Geithner, Joe Desjardins, Proterra Properties, dedicated volunteer at Habitat. One of the handouts that just came around to you was my attempt at fair market value. In the old days, meaning a couple of years ago, we Habitat would pay $20,000 per lot. And now we've tried to increase that to counter the effects of inflation. And when I say fair market value, to us, these lots are worth $25,000 each. And so if we multiply times 41 lots, that's $1,025,000 is our estimate of the market value. Our proposal is that the school district donate that land, and our commitment from Habitat, Habitat would take care of the other $4 million. And so as we try to balance the scales of equity and balance, our first goal is to make sure that the school district would receive $1,025,000 worth of value from the lots that we're providing them. If we do the math and crunch that into lots, that turns into 8 lots. And so this is a financial analysis, kind of helps us set the floor of how many lots would be fair and reasonable if the school district were to give us the property. Our team has spent a year developing this plan with the school district, and the proposal of 14 was approved by all. The Habitat Board approved that, and the school district board approved that, and so that was the number that we are presenting. Commissioner Gonzalez brought up a good point of there being 50%. We tried that on for size. Chris helped us with, because we are a quasi-public entity offering housing to everyone, there are certain rules, where we can't show favoritism. I think we could make 50% work as we from Habitat's point of view. I think I shared with some. Last year, we had 91 home applicants, and we did 22 house visits, and we selected 10 families to build a home for. And there was a lot of tears and a lot of gnashing of teeth as we take this humongous need and crunch it down to who's going to get a house. And so we have the same thing with the school district. We're concerned. We have adjusted the weighting mechanism that the school district will enjoy an extra point in the home selection review, and that will help them get to that 14 mark. Now, if we were to go over that, let's say we made it 50%, which would be, in this example, 21 homes, what do we do if there's not enough demand from the school district? Do we let lots sit there empty, reserved for the school district? So we're in that range, and we want to make it palatable to the county and the school district, and for Habitat also. Let me open that up for questions.
I'm going to ask one clarifying question, and then we'll move to you, Commissioner Williams. So to clarify, you're still proposing the 14 homes, but you could potentially go up to 50, to no more than 50% going to the district, which makes it how many homes? 20
and a half.
Okay. What I hear you saying is that based on the extra point given through Habitat's internal application process, that you're willing to go up if they're otherwise qualified and you have that many.
I'm going to say yes. Yes, we could also go up to 100% if we have that many who apply and they meet all qualifications being equal plus the 1 point. So again, the 14 was a starting point. That's the minimum. 50%, we could say minimum, but then what do we do if our lots are empty and we're sitting on several $1 million in development that we are not getting mortgages on? It's not sustainable for us.
Great.
But at the same,
Commissioner Williams.
yeah, no, in following up with what you were saying, but at the same time, U.S. housing law does not allow you to go over the 50% dedicated to the school.
The schools that have done this are really nervous about going over 50%. If we go 100%, it's definitely discriminatory practice, and we're not legally allowed to do that. The other school districts that have done this are sticking to no more. They're currently doing 25%. When I've spoken with them, they said, do not go over 50%. If you go over 50% and a half, then it could be considered discriminatory practice, which is illegal.
Commissioner Geithner.
So thank you for that clarification. I think that's helpful. But it is, and this is where I think the push and pull is a little bit on this is, but because it would be under Habitat's model, which again, we can talk about in isolation, it's a great model. I think we all agree on that. But because it would be under Habitat's model, it's an extra point. But you couldn't say, create a situation where no matter what, the school district gets priority.
No, they do get priority. That 1% in our model is actually a considerable, or 1 point, is actually a considerable boost. So all things being equal, out of the 40 of the 91 that applied, and you got 20 that were extremely close, 1 full point would have bumped a number of them up already.
But is there a scenario under which school district and staff might get that extra point and still be beat out by community members?
It's possible, but it wouldn't be all 10 to 20 that we would be building in that year.
Okay, but that's what I'm trying to understand here is there's not going to be a guaranteed preference for school board members. There is an extra point, which certainly pushes them forward, right? We agreed to that, but there is no way to make certain that those staff members are at the top of that.
It can be included in the agreement as long as Pikes Peak Habitat is not put into financial harm in having to hold a bunch of lots that aren't buildable.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm not, wouldn't suggest that. It's if you've got a list of people, being able to say, nope, the district, those staff are going to come first, surely makes it a little more clear to me that it's in the best interest of the school district, I guess is what I'm getting at with that. So, but that would be obviously down the road in a contracting phase, but there is a possibility for that.
There is. So let me just clarify for those who may not remember what our 3 criteria are. The first is that there is a need. It's overcrowding. Most of them are paying more than 50% of their income towards housing. That's going to be the bulk of your education staff. They're roommating, they're paying a ton of money for a bedroom in a home, and they're working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. So they're going to hit the need, odds are, just right along with any of our other families. Then you have the ability to pay an affordable mortgage, which is capped at 30% of their income. That's all things being equal. Now, we have a debt-to-income ratio of no more than 41%. That's a little tighter than national average. Most lenders say 43%. That's to help them to be more successful, to keep their debt in control at the time they enter the program. So that puts them in an equal playing field with anybody else. If you're over the 41%, you're not going to qualify. You can reapply later once you get the debt under control. And then you have that willingness to partner with us, which is on the sweat equity. They will need to put in the 200 hours of sweat equity just like any other person that qualifies for the program. So that 1 extra point is a big boost for the number of school district employees who choose to apply. So that being said, in School District 20 and in 11, we have district staff that are already homeowners without any extra rubric. We have D11 teachers. I have D11 and D2 school bus drivers. We have a cafeteria worker. We have a school maintenance person. So even without an extra rubric, those in those 2 school districts, they've already successfully applied and gotten into the program without an extra point. Again, it's a pilot, so maybe we look at adjusting the rubric if we're not seeing the numbers. That's a possibility too.
Any further questions?
I think Commissioner Williams has one, and then I do have a follow-up.
Yes. Okay, so I've got the 41% debt to income. Before your homeowners, and just refresh my memory, before your homeowners actually qualify for the program, do they go through some type of classes on how to manage income?
So
such.
So what happens with the application process? We are a mortgage origination company as well. So we originate and service our own mortgages. All mortgages are underwritten, meeting fair lending standards. They don't go through classes at that time. When we see somebody not qualifying because they are debt to income over, they have judgments, they've left a landlord without paying their rent, they've been in foreclosure a few years ago, then they have the opportunity to reapply. And we will work with them. We sit down and we go through their budget and say, here are things that you can control and you can reapply later. Now in our classes, which is part of their sweat equity, we have a number of classes, which includes estate planning so they can pass their home on to their heirs if they so choose. They also learn to maintain their home. Here they've built it already, but they need to have that buy-in on how to maintain it because that's a requirement in their mortgage. They must maintain the property. But they also go through not only estate planning, but budgeting, and they understand their mortgage documents. They see those mortgage documents at least 3 times before they sign. Now, most of us don't do that. We just go in and say, tell me where to sign, let's go. We want them to be informed. So there's 10 classes they have to take for every one of them to be as successful as they can be, because that transition from renter to homeowner is actually a cultural shock. And so we want them to be successful.
And then the other question I would have for the developer, do we have to create a special district with any extra mills on the property to help build this property? Because I don't want, what I don't want to see is foreclosure or tax liens because we put someone into a house they can't afford because we've set the property tax too high.
Commissioner Williams, I'm only a developer by day. So this area.
You don't do financing at night?
Don't give her any ideas. This is in the Colorado Center Metropolitan District, and I've talked to Al Testa over there, who I've known for 40 years, and he was thrilled to death that we're proposing affordable housing. And you know, in fact, everybody I talked to about this project wants to get on board, waive some fees, and how can we help? And if you look at it from the Metropolitan District point of view, there's 9 acres right now full of weeds. And so they would much rather have 41 people paying tap fees and utilizing the water and sewer service they already have. And so there's no new district obligation or expense. And,
okay.
And in fact, the opposite is the district would enjoy better utilization of the services that they already provide the rest of the community.
Okay. I think it sounds like a very fascinating and innovative project. And so, you know, I'd have to see what the cost to the taxpayer is to give the property to Whitefield School District. I think it's sell the property, not give. Sorry. I think it's a very fascinating partnership. And I think it would definitely give some opportunities, and it could be shown as a model throughout Colorado of here's how we made it easier for our teachers to teach in our district. So I'm curious to see more details as we go through the process.
And to clarify, Commissioner Williams, the school district currently owns the property. They are coming to us because they're asking to do something slightly outside the deed restriction. So they already own it. If they decide to do something other than straight up educational benefit. That's what they're here. That's what this discussion is about.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to move quickly to Commissioner Geithner and then to Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you. So again, on this push and pull, we have, this clear potential benefit to the district, and yet we have it would be in the hands of Habitat for Humanity. So there's the program that you have. In a situation where the school district was providing this benefit to staff members, they could potentially have contractual obligations related to how long people are going to stay at the district. In this situation, is any of that contemplated, or could a person be there for 1 year, get into one of these homes, and they could leave the district at any point? Since we're talking about turnover.
Yeah, so the Habitat homes come with a mortgage. There are also deed restrictions on them for affordability. There's also a first right of refusal. So the homes come back to, in all of our programs, the homes, we have first right to buy them back should somebody choose to leave. With this parcel, it's also D3 that has first right of refusal. Now, if the home is built and sold to a D3 team member and they choose to move, or let's say they choose to leave the school district employment, then the agreement is the school district will track who's coming and going. We don't track who's working where. The school district would let us know that one of their employees who is a homeowner has left employment with the school district. That obligates Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity under the current agreement that we would add another lot within the school district, any land we would own within the school district, to a D3 homeowner. So it would just continue to keep up so that we have, that we meet that percentage obligation that we agree to in the end.
Sure. I appreciate that. I'm still going to point out, though, that doesn't solve necessarily, or it doesn't work towards solving a turnover program, even if you add another house, if someone comes in, takes a home, and then still leaves the district. But understanding, again, that's what I'm trying to sort out. So much of this would have to happen in the contracting period afterward between the district and Habitat, and that is understandable that there's still a lot of work kind of to do on that side of things, but I'm truly trying to understand. I do want to just point out, though, are we going to get a presentation from Careers in Construction or no? Yes. Okay. So I will save my my particular comments on that. I know Renee is really excited on that, though. But I do really appreciate this. I will just say to this board, as we are contemplating this, the one thing that I would say is, I appreciate innovation, appreciate the pilot program, appreciate all of those pieces, but I would very much like this board to contemplate, if this is something that we are going to consider doing, what will we know, what will be success for this pilot program? Because I guarantee you we will have lots of asks. If we do one, we will have to do the others, and I would love to have that discussion from this board on what would it take for us to say this was a success, and it would be how we move forward. And then again, how do we, because I almost feel like to some extent we should be having a discussion with stakeholders in the community around, when we take from a private developer this land to go to educational purposes, is that something that it fits that need? Because those are all the pieces down the road, the implications of what are to come. And then my last thing I know is I'm going to just appreciate the county attorney clarifying some of that. Looking at the statute and considering the legal implications of this, one of the questions that I asked, and I'd like for the county attorney to share with the board, is whether or not just us actually giving up this interest actually legally still allows for this property to be used for non-educational purposes. So if the county attorney wants to tackle that, because we are in a sense an oversight component of making sure it gets used for educational purposes, the statute does require it be used for educational purposes, but, and I'll turn it over to the county attorney.
Thanks, Commissioner. I guess to clarify the first point, if the reversionary right in the deed were to be extinguished, if that went away, that would remove really the county's involvement, I think, in large part, unless it came with a contract of some kind. As far as the overall statute, and what we're talking about is CRS 3028-133, the overall intent of the statute appears to be to reserve this this piece of land and similarly situated pieces of land for school purposes or sell them and use the proceeds for school purposes. There's not a lot of guidance beyond that as far as causes of action and things along those lines as far as the proposal going forward. I know that's not as clear and cut and dry as I would like either, but again, not a lot of real clear direction on what a cause of action or what options would be for instance, somebody in the district that objected to it.
Just go back to that intent piece, and I'll say, from an elected official perspective, not an attorney perspective, who's not going to say that. Because of that statute, I will be honest, I'm a little concerned that a citizen could come back and sue the district and say it wasn't used for educational purposes. Now, that won't be on us, but it's just a piece of the puzzle looking at this broad intent of the law that does concern me.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. That's an interesting conversation because it's a kind of a dichotomy of laws intersecting with each other and possibly being in conflict. Because on the one hand, the law says education purposes, and on the other hand, because of the nature of this project, you've got statute that says you can't be discriminatory. So it kind of ends up being, if it ever were to get into litigation of some type, what law takes precedent over the other one. And that's kind of an interesting conversation that I have no answer to at this point. I did want to ask the question, though, actually a couple of questions. The first one is, if you're going to provide a point for benefit of the teachers, do you feel there's any risk in that being declared a discriminatory practice?
No, each Habitat affiliate has its own policies that meet Habitat International's overarching policies on how families are selected. Within those 3 key criteria, we have to have those pieces: the need, the ability to pay the mortgage, and the willingness to partner. Because we have created that, we created our own rubric internally to make it as equitable as possible, because it got to the point where it was heartstrings, and you have families with incredible need, that we had to create an internal rubric on how do we really break a tie on a family, and can we? So it's internal. I have not heard of any Habitat in the U.S., and there are 1,300 of us, being charged with discrimination based on the selection process.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then, I appreciate Commissioner Geithner's comments about do we somehow create a precedent if we go down a particular path with this? I think an important question with regard to that is how many other properties are there that fit under this condition? Because I would say, without really knowing myself, it's probably not very many, if any more. So I don't know if anybody has an answer to that, but I'd like to hear if there's a lot, because if we're talking about this statute with this provision and the reversionary clause, are there other properties with that kind of encumbrance at all? So, please, yeah.
Thank you. Great question. Talking to the school district, the magic number nowadays is 10 acres. And especially because of the importance of stormwater quality. And so every site the school district does is going to have a detention pond. And we lose at least 10% of the land area to stormwater. So the parcel we're looking at today is 9 acres. The parcel that's on deck, if you will, is 9.3 acres. And these are that's how they ended up being 2 remnants in a 4,000 acre master plan community. And so the good news is that this is not a recurring problem today, is that, developments that are coming on board now, the developer meets with the school district, and the school district says, specifies what size they need, and that's all hammered out. So I don't see a large inventory of these type of parcels. But if the county does experience leftover parcels, Habitat would be glad to partner with you to put them to good use.
I was going to say right now, we have this one that we were looking at. There is a possible second one, which is about 700 yards away from its location versus where some new building is taking place. Any of the other school sites that we have are going to be needed for schools, and they will need to be used as they're intended.
Commissioner Guy.
I'm going to say that I've talked to board members in multiple districts on this topic, and I would say it is fair to say that every district could potentially have at least one or two of these. So there is, and as I said, I mean, the parcel that my school was built on was 7 acres. For many of the same reasons the district didn't want it, we did build a K-8 school on a 7-acre parcel, including all the requirements. But yes, it gets more and more challenging, and oftentimes those schools are bigger. But I do think that, again, specifically, as was mentioned, people are watching this specifically because they have those parcels in mind. And that's the extent of why I say, if we are going to do it, I ask this board to be, we're not making that decision today, but I ask this board to be very thoughtful about how that affects things going forward, what we would want to see, what our metrics of success would be in this situation, and still knowing that, again, when I can think, Sterling Ranch or any of these big developments that come across have this requirement by the state. And so, in those cases of those parcels being set aside, I think, again, we are, as the government, the state requires us to say, you are impacting the community. We are requiring, just like we do with a road impact fee, anything else, we are requiring this piece of land. And the state statute says, and we are taking it for the purposes of schools. So I just want to be very clear that if we are not going to do that and it's not going to be used for schools, I want to be clear, and I think the bigger conversation needs to happen with the community members as well, because I will just say, if I were told I have to give this for a school purpose and then it was used for affordable housing, I don't think that that is completely transparent with our community and intent of the law. So I think that those are the complicating factors here that exist that this board should take seriously in contemplation. Again, sometimes we need to look at those things seriously to allow innovation to occur. But I think that there are potential repercussions from a potential moving forward on this project that we have got to fully be aware of. And I know that some of you will not be here after another year, but certainly it will exist on in the county. We have all experienced things that have happened in the past that we've had to deal with down the road. So that's why I'm just cautioning about making sure that we don't set up future boards for a situation that is complicated.
My apologies, Madam Chair. I think maybe you're interested in taking a quick break or something, but no, I appreciate Commissioner Geithner's comments, and if there are those several other examples, there is a reasonable consideration about creating some kind of policy that can allow for consistent application, not knowing exactly what that would mean, but some kind of policy about consistent application. And the better choice, is possibly doing it in advance of going forward with this. And I have no idea what the timing is, if that produces an issue or not. But I think that's reasonable to have a conversation about. So thanks.
Commissioner Williams.
And as we know, the governor wants to bring back his affordable housing initiative. Maybe this would be one of the recommendations we could make, is to stick something in this area of statutes that allows land to be set aside for affordable housing for teachers. If you want to put affordable housing along the major transportation corridors, or if you're going to give benefits for encouraging attainable affordable housing, there's different things that might be plausible suggestions for state legislation that maybe many of us could get on board, as opposed to the legislation that was proposed last year.
Thank you. Do we have a presentation from Careers in Construction at this point? No, if you guys can deal with my standing for a minute. Thank you.
Renee Zentz, serving two hats. I'm going to be here as the Housing and Building Association CEO, as well as president of Careers in Construction. So I do appreciate this conversation. It is really interesting, and it's actually a little bit more fun than some of the ones we've been engaged in the past. I kind of want to start with Carrie a little bit about this property and about how this is really a unique piece of property, right? We've had the conversations internally about this. This is less than 10 acres, which you understand now is a minimum. It's over 20 years now that the developer had the opportunity, and now it's reverting back to the county, which is unique. I have a question. Has anybody ever had any inquiries about this piece of property for any reasons whatsoever? I didn't think it has been a piece of property that has been very left out on the edges. And actually, one of the properties I think that Dave talked about that was a comparison was a huge property, piece of property, not huge, large piece of property donated to Careers in Construction from one of our developers. So that was I think we're in a really unique space, and I hope that we consider that. And I also believe that back in 1987, it was a very antiquated and we're better at the land when we donate the land I would sometimes say it's a taking, but you can say it's an impact fee. An impact, it's a different process now. And Joe alluded to that, right? I mean, we are smarter about how we evaluate land and give it to the schools. And they're smarter, and we're better partners about doing that now than we ever were 30 years ago. So I think if you're going to have the courage to do a pilot project, this is the one to do it. Because Carrie, I agree that we have a lot of eyes on this, but there are so much unique pieces to this that we can actually say this was kind of the trifecta. This is the perfect storm to take this piece and do that. So we have had conversations internally, and I want you to know that. Has there been any pushback? No, because we all see the need for, and we all see the need for attainable housing, but also the industry is so behind a house that can be bought, right? Homeownership. They're the only nonprofit in our community that actually does homeownership. So kind of wanted to start right there. Then lead into something that Carrie talked about also is the value that really can be quantified back to the school district. And I'm a little unclear too, so I'm gonna maybe pull you guys up here and we can talk to this together. But my understanding is $25,000 per lot was the value as a developed lot that the teachers that would at 14 lots, and if we go to 50% of the lots, that'd be 20 lots, that's $500,000. So there's one number right there. The 800,000, was that for 14? Can you come up here, Dave? And I apologize, I didn't catch the slide 100%. So for retention of a teacher's 20,000 per retention, and I'm assuming that's not just teachers, that's going to be buses.
More for teachers than others, but there's still value in all of that within.
And that equaled up to $800,000?
If it was all the homes that were.
If it was all 40 homes?
We had all 41.
Okay.
Yeah, for our 14, it was, 280 or something like that.
Okay, so let's back that off to 50%. That's another 400. So I kind of want to talk then about now, so we're at $900,000. That is very simply quantifiable. And Carrie, too, I did talk to CSI. They said actually, they did say, wow, this is really great, right? They were very positive about it and are willing. Their role at CSI is to identify or find third-party data that would benefit multiple areas. They said they would be willing to be partners on this, as far as maybe set metrics. But Chris did a great job setting some metrics as well. But for Careers in Construction specifically, we have our investment for Careers in Construction since 2016 has been, I think we got in the school in 2017, has been a minimum of $50,000 per school. When we look at the materials and certifications and then staffing for this, et cetera, we average about $50,000 per school. So then 3 years ago, they were under our pilot projects to build the houses that will go on this project. And this project is also, I think they're going to have a little bit more cost because it's being designed so that we can put our houses out there. And it's not their typical design. So currently we know that we have an average of $50,000 per school on average, but this school costs more because they have almost 200 students in the classroom that go through this program. We know that last year there were 180 certificates that were earned. Of that, that is an average of $500 back to that school for all career technical education that benefited that school as a whole. So we know that, like say, they're building 2 houses a year now, not just one, but it's a 2-year process. So let's say we get a house every year. So that program, that goes back to, and I kind of like the price because we were thinking $150,000. I like the $300,000 from our perspective, but that benefits the careers in construction. We're hoping for a $70,000 benefit or net on each house. So, and we're going to put 8 houses out there. We're going to average, I think we have 8 houses being built. Let's say we're going to average 4 houses a year. 4 times 70 is $270, $250,000 a year back to careers in construction. So does that help as far as let's step back, and we all have pieces and parts on, and I think this is a really unique project. We're asking you guys to do a pilot. There is absolutely, we need to work on this together. We have talked about it in the industry. It is a unique piece that really is going to be hard to say, you know what, they did that there. We have 3 or 4 kind of strange criteria around it that maybe we can, and then not to even mention the second deeds restriction that we still haven't decided, okay, you do sell it, it has to be another school. We're not sure about that one either. So I'll stop with that. Commissioner
Geithner.
Thank you. So, and I do think we've discussed this one, that we could remove that deed restriction and it could be sold at market value. But regardless, I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because this piece of the educational value, right, for those kids who are actually, I mean, there's the benefit to the district, and then there's a benefit to the district as an organization, potentially monetarily with staff, but there's the educational benefit to the students who are in this district who are able to participate in this program.
One more thing. So
go ahead.
We talked internally too, and this is the other thing, is we're going to work with Habitat for Humanity in the classrooms to understand what it would be for their own families to apply for these schools. So we've already talked, that would be, so we for like I said, a serious couple days of program where we invite the whole all the families in of the community. Because you did have a really good point at our meeting about when Chris said, hey, we kind of put this out to a lot of D11 people and we really didn't have a lot of takers. That scared the crap out of me. I was like, great. If that's real, how can we partner with D3 where they are really educating people on this value and this opportunity? And we should do that in the classrooms as well. So that's going to be another whole piece of education, homeownership, that will be so real and alive to them because they'll have to be out there working alongside the families as well. So thank you for.
Yeah, no, so just a follow-up. So again, thank you for quantifying that educational value as well, because I think that together, I've been a little tough on the questions here, but that's because I think we have a really important decision to make. And quite frankly, there's a lot of feel good, but if we move forward on a pilot program, gosh darn, I sure hope it's successful because it will set the tone. And so I think it's important that we're asking the hard questions up front so that if in the event this board does want to move forward on this, we have something very clear, because there is an opportunity, but a pilot not well done kills opportunity in the future. And so that's why I think that answering these questions was very important to me today. So thank you for humoring me on a lot of those tough questions.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So, there is because of who's involved, Habitat and Careers in Construction and a school district, there's a fair number of potential intersections that are really, really interesting, like maybe some of the teenagers from a parent who wants to move into one of these Habitat for Humanity homes contributes to the sweat equity on the construction of the house by going through careers in construction and actually helps frame it.
I think that, Commissioner, that's also something that I think needs to realize. At night, this school is for the adults. There is that true apprenticeship program that happens at night at D3. So that is another opportunity for people to understand about the importance of this program as well. They have been the best partner, an amazing partner. And we speak nationally together about how this school district from day one, Scott Campbell said, you know what, when we wanted to do the Springs Rescue Mission, they had a teacher from 11 till 1 o'clock on 2 days a week that turned it into for our homeless men trying to get back their feet. This is not an overnight. This relationship is true brotherhood and sisterhood. So
yeah.
And what they've done for our industry is really amazing.
So part of the pilot could be trying to figure out how to produce those intersections, and if you can create something that really, can succeed about getting these kids some trade skills, right, or whatever, that could be really, really interesting. Of course,
there's grants that are available as 2-generational, is it called? I think, Commissioner Gardner. It's like when underserved parent and underserved child work together on projects.
And I wanted to bring up another point, and this is something that Commissioner Gonzalez and I went through in 2017 when we had someone come before the board here needing a waiver to allow a tiny home to be put on a concrete pad on a ranch in far out eastern El Paso County. And it dawned on us at that time that we had no policy with regard to tiny homes.
Oh, I remember that one.
You remember that? Yeah. So what we did was we granted that person a waiver. And then after the fact, we built the tiny home policy. So there's perhaps something analogous here about having a pilot program that we actually utilize to develop what the policy ought to look like. I'm just going to make the point that there's a possible way to leverage a pilot program into thoughtful policy development, because we experiment with some of the interplay of the different organizations and what kind of outcomes could we get as a result of it. So I think there's something to have a conversation about with regard to that as well.
We're open for it. I think that's what you're seeing here is.
Okay. Thank you very much. If there are there any further questions of the presenters at this time before I make some comments? Okay, Commissioner Geithner.
I promise I'm going to make this one fast. So
You can stand up
for
here.
the school district, I have one simple question. Considering the potential for sale of this land in the $1.5 million-ish ballpark, can you look at me and tell me that you think, not a benefit to the community as a whole, but in benefit to the school district itself, is this essentially $1.5 million well spent? Or benefit?
I would think yes, because of the long-term impacts. When we have 1.5 million or whatever it is, that's a one-time amount of money that comes to us. The benefit of having homes and the availability of us to be able to go out. I've gone out and recruited for teachers as well. And to be able to say, we have these homes available for you is invaluable that no other district has. And so I don't know that I could put a price on that amount, and that brings teachers to us. And that's what we're struggling with right now. So I would say, yes, I think it is worth that amount of money.
I said one, but I have one follow-up. Sorry. Because of something you just said there. Are you confident that if we gave this program a couple of years to come back and answer, that you would be able to quantify the impact of those particular homes to the turnover and your ability to attract teachers in the district?
We'll have to see how it works. I would hope so, yes. I know hope's not a good answer for you, but since it's a pilot, we don't know how that's going to go. But that is what the intent is, and that's what we believe would happen.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Geithner, that was actually a perfect segue to, I've let the conversation fully be fully explored here, but I have some thoughts as well that I haven't said yet. I heard earlier in the presentation that that one-time market value, if we were to sell the property, was anywhere from an estimated $680,000 to $1.6 million. That was kind of it's a large range, but that was based on just your own valuations of like properties.
From the assessor's side, I went and saw properties that were in the area itself, and that's where I took them from. They were on the wrong side of the street, and they are commercial. I'm an educator. I'm not commercial versus residential, but that's 2 sales that happened within 2022, which has all the information on the assessor site. So I just tried to find out how much it was per square foot to be able to make it.
We love that public transparency on our assessor's site, allowed you to do your own comps. But so, you know, to me, Commissioner Geithner has very clearly stated what I think we all feel, that we're stewards. We're stewards of this, and this is a unique situation in which we find ourselves looking into details of things that we're usually fairly hands-off on. Once that land has been deeded to a school district for the purposes of education, we entrust that is what is happening. I believe that you all are going above and beyond in coming back to us and presenting a project. And to me, that, you know, our other options on the table, if we were not to entertain your proposal here, to me, it's a numbers game, and Commissioner Geithner's questions have gotten directly to that, because again, we are stewards to ensure that the original intent of the school district benefiting is there. I've seen a lot of evidence today to me that indicates that with as few as 8 lots directly to District 3 employees, the benefit would be to the school district. I hear you saying your minimum proposal is 14. I hear a superintendent saying that you believe that you will be able to show in an exponential way, not just a one-time way, more than $1.5 million of benefit to the school district. I believe that's where our responsibility in considering this lies. Now, I think on a bigger picture, Commissioner Geithner brings up some great points, and Commissioner Vanderwerf has a great suggestion about, you know, let's watch this. Let's be very clear about future implications. Let's work with some stakeholders and others to make sure that that's a clear policy, because this has not been fun or easy for any of you, but that's what innovation sometimes takes, and I'm excited about this. You know, I think Commissioner Geithner and Ms. Zentz also spoke about CSI, that's Common Sense Institute, and I think at least 3 of us sat in a presentation a few weeks ago put on by them, and the panelists were someone in public safety, someone in education, and then there was a policy analyst that kind of did housing and workforce development stuff. And I found it fascinating that at the end of that presentation, there was a question from the audience that was, it was a unique question, but it was, hey, if I could give each of you a magic wand, what would you do with it to impact all of these numbers and things you've heard today? And as each of those policy experts and area experts answered it, I began to think that you all, this is the magic wand that actually touches what every single one of those people said. It touches workforce development with the careers in construction and the housing component, the education component, and public safety as well. Because public safety, their answer to it was actually that they wanted to see people with productive activities that weren't they realize the interplay of all of those things. And to me, I kind of thought, oh, well, that's kind of a silly, fun question. What are they going to say? These are real policy experts. And all of a sudden, this is the kind of, I feel like this, we can't expect it to be a magic wand, but I could not have imagined that all of those things could intersect in a viable solution, really, to impact all of those areas. And I think I'm pretty excited about seeing that. I've seen the numbers today that tell me that there is a great deal of educational benefit and directly to the district. And in addition to that, all of those other ancillary benefits. And I agree that we're, through a series of crazy events with this particular parcel, we do find ourselves stewards of it. Thank you for answering our questions and allowing us to take that responsibility seriously and thoroughly. And thank you for being innovative. I think this is, I think it's fascinating, and I will be excited to watch it should this board decide that's the direction we're headed. And at this point, I think we do have, no decisions are made in a work session, but we can certainly kind of direct staff and you all on how we see this playing out, how we'd like to move forward. So actually, Mr. County Attorney, would you like to summarize kind of our choice of options here and how this should play out from here?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm glad to.
Thank you.
What I would identify are, I think, three viable options. One would involve working with the school district by essentially quit claiming the board's interest. That would be done by resolution, and either doing that with or without some contract provisions or another real estate instrument to guarantee the 14 houses going to teachers and some of the other things. I think those would be the first two options. Third one, there has been some discussion about essentially selling the property. That could actually be accomplished really at an amount that could possibly split the difference or at current market value. If it were sold, then the proceeds would go to school purposes, and the property could be developed by Habitat or whomever else would be the purchaser in the way that we had just discussed. So I think that those are the viable options, at least that I can identify from the board's perspective.
Okay. And I know, again, this is a work session, so no formal motions are needed, but is there any other input on direction here? Commissioner Geithner.
I'm just going to reiterate my desire that if the board wants to move forward, that this, number one, I would say of those options, I am most comfortable with some sort of element that is not simply a quit claim, because at that point, no, we assume that, we're all partners here and that things would go forward. But at that point, legally, we would not be exercising any right moving forward. So if they decided they wanted to, donate it to, you name whatever, they could do that. So I do like the idea of making sure contractually that it is what we are looking at. Because again, just from a stewardship purpose, I do think that is important. The second thing is, again, I'm going to reiterate my request for this board to determine, what would it look like for us to say that this pilot program was successful, and how will we handle future requests of this nature going forward? And would we, look for a timeline or what would that look like? Because I think, if we have someone come to us next year who says, you did this, can we do it too? How will we know when we get, will we require details of the pilot to come back, and what kind of metrics? I think all of those things are very important. I appreciate Renee's comments around the building industry, and I think certainly that is probably a very good representation. But I think, again, we need to think very clearly about what that means moving forward as we continue to have these properties and set-asides and make sure that it is, that our community is clear on what is happening, what we are doing, and what expectations are moving forward.
Commissioner Geithner, Renee again, does that turn into like a form of a resolution as a pilot? Just saying because of these outlines, and I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking, how do we move forward with that? What is does the attorney, do we draft something up that just says, is there help?
Madam Chair, if I could really quickly, I think that my office could definitely work with the partnership here and work something out as far as a resolution and or a policy.
I do agree with Commissioner Geithner. I would like us to really outline why this is coming together, right? And that allows, so it's not a free-for-all for the next one. It really does identify, these partnerships and this circumstance and that type of thing.
I think, Mr. County Attorney, I think I'm going to read directly from an email that outlined some of our options, if that's okay with you. So I think where we are headed with Commissioner Geithner's interest is that we could essentially work with staff to replace our reversionary interest with some kind of contractual or real estate instrument specifying the intended use for affordable school staff housing. And so I would leave that up to the legal and contracts team to work that out, but it would essentially be replacing our reversionary interest. If we were to just quit claim the reversionary interest, there would be no strings attached. And what I'm hearing the board say is that we'd still like it to go to educational purposes, and you all are well intended, and that is the intent as you bring this big idea project to us. But I think, so we do have a mechanism by which that can be done, and I think that can be done through our county attorney's office.
And not to be the final word, but I do want to kind of address Commissioner Williams' comments about, I love the idea of thinking larger, but let's keep this local for now. Let's stay in our area. I think
did
that
you
will
say that
become
once
a
about
pilot.
careers in construction too?
Pardon?
I said, did you say that once about careers in construction too?
Yeah, let's make it successful local first.
I think that's a great idea. And
I do
again,
love your idea.
Personally, I'm not in the business of telling a nonprofit or a school district exactly how to do things, but in this case, we had some stewardship responsibilities.
It's a
So thanks
partnership.
for letting us get in on the ground level to help us feel comfortable with a direction moving forward. And with that, are there any further questions or comments, Commissioner Vanderwerf?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know. I think we have to look into it a little bit further, but I'm not so sure it's necessarily a bad thing to do a quit claim. So I'm still open to that idea. What I do think more to some comments that I've made, and it's kind of Commissioner Geithner's second point that she made. If we're going to get somewhere to make this happen, which I think all of us have an interest in doing, just being somehow part of it, having the county be part of it, for the points of getting a good understanding of the outcomes of the project so that we could potentially use that to develop policy later, possibly for use down the road, so that we could work on producing a consistent policy. Now, if that ends up needing to be some type of a contract or some type of an MOU with the school or something, because that would be public to public, so that would be driven, I think, by an MOU. But I think we would be interested in getting something back to see what the outcomes are.
Commissioner, we, as the Careers in Construction Colorado, we come and we update you guys every 6 months, or try to absolutely be a piece of that, unless you would want more updates, but probably a 6 month.
It would just have to be sufficient for us to contemplate, a policy going forward, especially since there are other properties that are likely to then extend an interest in it. And we would want to be able to do that in a thoughtful way and do it in an appropriate way, trying to continue to grow those outcomes in affordable housing for school teachers and school employees and other people that are on limited incomes, whatever the answer is, whatever that has to be, we just would need to have some kind of an arrangement where we receive those outcomes periodically so that we can do something with it.
And Commissioner, putting on my HBA hat, obviously we would love to be our industry be involved in that discussion because, like I said, it's new games than it was 1987, right? So, what would make sense if that would be a great dialogue? We'd be more than willing to and love to be in that conversation.
And Chris, go ahead.
No, hang on just a minute. Just please keep in mind that as much as we would love to be building homes and closing in 2 days, even though we've done a considerable due diligence now, it's at least 2 years out from the time we take title before we're actually building homes. And then for us to build, it's 10 months per home. So love for you to be able to give an update in 6 months that we're doing, but right.
Yes, and all of these organizations too have built-in kind of reporting mechanisms, and I look forward to seeing this project featured as a success story. But you all have your own ways of kind of celebrating or evaluating those with us. I think what I hear is that we'd just like to be a part of that as we look at whether this is viable going forward.
Commissioner Lahanos, you have been pretty quiet. Is there anything you want to add? Thank you.
Okay, with that, any further business on this work session? All right, we are adjourned.
Thanks, you guys.